Hello and welcome to the 4 Corners podcast. I'm Brad, joined by Matt. Shad is not with us this week due to personal reasons, so he will be
painful personal reasons.
Yeah, so he'll be back in 2 weeks because I will put a community note up later, but we will not be having a show next week, just because there's a lot going on for a number of us. So
we're all kind of going on spring break, I guess.
Yeah. Some of us are moving, some of us are on spring break, so we're starting to move. God, I'm not looking forward to the process because moving's terrible.
Have you packed?
No, I'm kind of slowly.
I'm
kind of slowly doing it,
we have to I've kind of mentioned this. I've talked to you about it like off air, like not on the show, but I've kind of briefly mentioned it on the show. Like my wife and I are going to renovate our house for different reasons, but we have to move out for that. We were going to do a much bigger renovation, but we nixed that because the economy is like terrible. So we don't want to pay out the ass in tariffs because the hardwood floor we've wanted is like imported from like Vietnam or something. I don't know. They were now going to get screwed.
Or it's been sitting in a warehouse for 5 years, but it's a great chance to price gouge you for more money too.
Yeah. Point is, we still do need to renovate the house, and so we're gonna have to move out. It's gonna be less than it was, like less amount of time, but probably still at least like a couple months. So we got to pack everything to do that. And I'm not looking forward to it. My wife wants to do it like start in June, and it's like that's like 6 weeks away, and we haven't even started. And like I don't know, like we could do it, but that's also a daunting task. But I don't know.
It's tough.
Moving sucks. Like I hate doing it
because you amount so much crap, but and it's tough.
You wind up having way more stuff than you think you do. You're like, oh, I don't have that much, and then it's like 100 boxes later and you're not done, and it's like, how did I get all this stuff? Where's it going?
Yeah,
where did it fit before? Like
I was pretty ruthless at the last house. Well, I mean, it's a house, and like if you live there, like the last house we lived there for 11 years, so stuff builds up over time. And this time, like, it's just figuring out what I'm taking and like what I'm getting rid of and downsizing my space. It's a lot of decision making.
Yeah. Oh, my wife loves to purge, so I'm sure like when we start packing, she's just gonna like just chuck a bunch of stuff, which could be fine. But I not that I'm bad with purging, but I also like I'm lazy necessarily with like let me like sit down and like go through like my desk to sort it out, see what it needs to throw away and stuff like that. Even something like simple as that. I'm lazy with that. So
well, my problem is I'm getting rid of a lot of stuff that has like value to it, but doing that because people are like, well, you get the best value of like selling it individually. It's like I don't have the time nor the energy to do that. So like trying to find a reputable person to like buy stuff.
I have some stuff for that. You know what my wife and I have been doing? We donate it. We donate it and then mark down like what the fair market value is. And then you just declare it when you submit your taxes for the year. And it's all legal. I mean, we're doing it on the up and up, but it's like I'm not going to go through the hassle of selling this. Like it's too much hassle. Like I'm just gonna. What's the fair market value of this item? It's this. Okay, donating it. Like there you go.
Yeah, it's tough. Not a great time to move either, with everything costing so much.
Oh yeah.
Because I can't. The sad thing is I don't make bad money, but I can't afford to live in the city anymore. Like at all. And I don't want roommates, so that's what, because I don't know, it's just crazy. But so we're gonna be talking USWA. We did the 314 and 321 shows, but this coming weekend is Mania, and I don't know. We're gonna talk about kind of what's going on with the indies more so, because the Mania card itself I think is pretty. Honestly, it's I would say lackluster is being generous.
It honestly seems, and even like I mentioned it on the show, like even like Fed fans are kind of just like over it. Like they're not like they're like outside of two things, like the 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 triple main event, I guess. Not triple main event, but the three-way
Mm-hmm.
of the main event of night one, Punk and Roman and Seth, which to me is like that's not even like
That appeals to like Roman and Punk fanboys, I think. But like, I mean, I don't. The problem I see with it is like none of those matches feel like, other than Cena and Cody, which I think they've kind of done a bad job with overall. But like, where's the investment in any of the matches? Like, it
I
feels
mean
like it feels
some
like a
stuff.
it feels like a lot of filler.
It is a lot of filler. There's a couple things that have actually build, but it's also like you don't care about it. And
And like, why is Rhea Ripley
yep,
suddenly in the Bianca Io match?
yeah, I don't know. That's kind of thrown together.
Well, because I
They
know there
spent
was like I know there's been build with Bianca and Io, but then I saw Rhea in there. I'm like, like why is she in there? Is she just there
because
to win essentially?
maybe she's there because she's over. She's probably one of, if not the most over female worker they have. So that's why she's there.
Yeah,
So
but I mean,
they shoehorned her in.
I don't like it because, for one, Bianca's over enough she can stand on her own. So why not get two good matches out of it? I mean, as much
Mm,
as they've tried to not do anything with Bianca Belair, um,
mm.
and I would like to point out that as much as Twitter gets pissed off if you mention it, there is nary a blackmail to be seen on any of those shows.
No, you think they don't have any.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I think someone pointed out like I think Dynasty maybe had like multiple African American talents, both male and female.
And like,
Not that anyone's keeping score,
no, I'm
but
not. It's for me. It's not like it's not about keeping score because we've talked about it before. Like, I think there's legitimate reasons why, sometimes you're between talent. Sometimes that's
mm,
you're working with what you've got. Um, Sometimes that's just the way you're booking at the time. But it's the what like we're in year 3 and there was a 2-year period I think where he had not had a singles match with a black wrestler on
mm.
it or something. So it's the pattern of behavior that's more caught my attention than just this card in like a vacuum.
I'm at the point where eventually. Oops, sorry. That's my.
Oh, I've done that
I'm
before. Hearing
yeah.
the echo, I'm like, what
I'm
the
at
hell's that?
yeah. I'm at the point where like at some point, if there's this much smoke, that there's a fire there. Like I'm sorry. Like you have some good talents on your roster. So for you to be like, oh man, shucks, just don't have anything for them. It's like even if you're to be like, okay, like it's April, it's like maybe like first 3 months of the year, I don't really have anything, so they're not gonna be on Mania. It's like dude, it's been 3 years. Nothing?
And
You
you
have
had the
nothing.
New Day do a hot angle in January that you did
Oh
nothing
my,
with.
but see that's the point. Like that's like the New Day was a hot angle and everything, nothing. Like the New Day right now, I think they have a match on the card. They have it against like the Viking House Party, Viking
Were
Raiders,
they on
whatever they're
there?
called. Yeah, but it's like you literally had the hot angle and you've done nothing with them, and that's your Mania match, like against the
And you
Viking
have the
Raiders.
tag
Like
titles. You have the tag titles on the Viking House Party. Who, I mean, I like both of them.
do they have the tag titles? I don't
I
even
think
know.
so. I think so because I thought
Let me look
that's
this
really
up.
weird considering they had been hurt and they aren't really over.
No,
But like, you don't have the Street Profits on the show.
you should. I don't know if I have to pull up the full card. I'm trying to pull up the superstars to see. Okay, so let's see. they have like so many belts now that it's like, who cares?
They don't even have like most of them on the show.
No, the Street Profits are the champions.
Oh, that's funny. Well, there's 2 tag
And
titles.
the War Raiders are the other ones. Let me look up the Mania card now. WrestleMania 41. Oops, hold on.
I think they at least had the sense to keep like that really. They didn't try to shoehorn in a Motor City Machines Gun DIY match that just dies in front of like crowds over and over again.
All right, so it looks like I think most of. Well, the other thing is that between the pre-shows and the after show, I think each night is supposed to be like 9 hours, and it's like, are you kidding me?
Wait,
but yeah,
are you serious? When they're going to be 9?
Oh no, like that's already been talked about, like between like pre-show stuff and the actual show, and then post-match, like an interview, a press conference, whatever. It's everything total is supposed to be like 9 hours.
I thought that's why they
That's not a
split the
joke.
2 nights, because it was getting too long. And I thought like at
They're
first we were like,
it's about content creation now.
but because I remember I remember distinctly us having this conversation where I said I don't like it, but if they, I think it was Shad that said if they could keep it to 4 hours a night, it's fine. And I said no, they're going to creep back up to it's going to be 2 nights of 8 hours apiece.
Okay, looking at it now, obviously, like,
and they really don't have a lot of matches on them to be that long either.
No, so night 1 they have 7 matches. Night 2, 6 matches. Now they could add another couple matches, maybe to either side. I doubt that, given that they
but even if it's 10
premium live events,
even
that
if it's
are like
10, you should be able to blow through 10 matches in 3 or 4 hours before you factor in
WrestleMania 15 that we talked about not that long ago. We've probably had like 15 matches and the longest match was maybe like 20 minutes. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe like the main event was like 30. But most of those matches, it's like you had multiple matches that were like 5 minutes long. And that's a little excessive too. But it's also like you can do like a multi-match. I mean, I think they're a little excessive about it, but AEW routinely has like 13, 14 match shows.
No, I mean, I'll straight up say
matches are not like 5 minutes long. They are 10 minutes or more.
No, I bitch up a storm. Like, I think AEW pay-per-views, when you figure in pre-shows, are too long, because going from 7 to midnight, especially on a Sunday, is brutal to like get through, because like I always die around. But like we've had this conversation before. I believe the sweet spot, and I strongly believe a live show should be 2.5 hours, TV should be 2 hours, and a pay-per-view should be 3 hours, with a special event pay-per-view like Mania can go 4.5 hours.
See, that's what it used to be. Like back in the day, we sound like old men yelling at clouds, but back in the day when we were like young, pay-per-views are like 3 hours, and not even 3 hours, like 2 hours, 45 minutes.
I think even as recently as like, I mean, Mania has been long in the tooth for a good 20 years now, but like I think even as recently as like 10 years ago, the pay-per-views are still only 3 hours.
They were more reasonable, but it used to be like pay-per-views, even like during the Attitude Era, like the Monday Night War era, pay-per-views like 2 hours, 45 minutes, and then Mania, you get away with doing like a 4-hour show, and it's like I was fine with that because it's like, oh, it's a special show. Then everything is like 4 hours or longer.
Well, remember before the Monday Night War era, and the cost was different. So like the big four in WWE were $30, but they were 3-hour pay-per-views, and then In Your Houses were actually 2-hour pay-per-views, but they were $20.
Yeah, they were cheaper because it was like an experiment they were doing. But I liked it actually. I mean, the lower price point back in the day, like it actually got me to order a couple of those at least, because it's like, oh well, I can get my parents to like, I could con my parents into doing like a $20 pay-per-view.
Well, it's not $30.
$30, yeah, no. Well, I mean, inflation, like back in the day, like difference between like $20 and $30 was like a big deal to my parents,
Yeah, because I think once I was in, I think in a solid year I might get I might have gotten 5 pay-per-views, but you used to have your I'm gonna go old man here. You used to have your friends over and you used to split the cost. So if you had 10 friends
Mm,
over, it cost you $3 a piece. Or someone would call you on. Like that's how I used to see a bunch of them. It was like I would get them and have people over. Like a friend might be like, "Hey, 5 of us got the pay-per-view. Bring $5 over and you can watch it with us, and we'll get
mm.
pizza." That's what. That's how I saw SummerSlam '98. I wasn't even planning to see it, and like guys from school called me and were like, "Hey, we got the pay-per-view. Like, you want to come over, bring $5, and we'll get some pizza and stuff." And that's how I saw that one.
I don't know if he still does it, but back in the day, friend of the show, Christy Petrillo, like because of his work, he actually would get all like the wrestling pay-per-views, I think free. Um, but he would have people over. Because I for time before children, and my time like I have no time anymore. But I would always go up in December for his birthday, just hang out for the weekend. And usually like it was around, I think almost every single time they had like the December WWE pay-per-view. Um and he would just have people over and we would watch it. Uh and he got it for free, but it's the same concept. Like it became like a community thing where it's like, come on over, like, and you get like a pizza or something, like whatever. So
Yeah,
people bring like chips, something, just something to
that
snack on.
in my friend group that eventually evolved into UFC pay-per-views in
There
our
you go.
20s.
Yeah. Well, now even like thinking of that concept, like now it's like if you have to have basically ESPN Plus, and even ESPN Plus, it's like you're paying like what, 70-80 bucks.
You still have to pay for the
Or
pay-per-views with ESPN
yeah,
Plus.
that's what I'm saying. Like on top of that, it's like 70-80 bucks, and it's like, and UFC is not what it was. Like
No,
people have even diehard UFC or MMA fans are starting to realize it's like, oh, like the quality has gone tremendously
it's
down since TKO took over.
it's gotten better in the last year or two because they've like the depth is kind of filled out. Like they don't have like big stars, but if you're talking about like you get a show, you get it's not like it was a couple years ago where it's like a two-match show. Like usually they're 5 or 6 deep, like, and it's not like a big star people, but they're like you at least get like, okay, this guy's not a huge name, but he's a contender in the division. He's good, that sort of thing.
Hmm. I mean, I guess if I'm dropping like a lot of money for a show though, then it's like I don't need like the equivalent of like I want to I'm if I pay 70, 80, whatever, how much money
I think they're 80
for a
now.
show, like I expect, putting in wrestling terms, I expect Mania or Royal Rumble or Survive. I expect like big stuff. Not like I'm paying that much money for equivalent of Backlash,
Because I don't
like
even
a,
like I don't even
yeah,
get
big show.
I don't even get all the AEW ones. Like I think they're at about their saturation point of pay-per-views, I think, for $50.
Yeah, I mean, I don't either. Um, if maybe some of the big ones I do, or if it's something really, what I felt is really worth it, like excuse me, back in August, September for the second All
Mm-hmm.
in London, like I bought that. Uh, but since then I haven't really. I don't think I bought Full Gear. Like I haven't. Well, I mean, that's a whole separate discussion about not really feeling the Death Rider stuff. But I bought All In because it's like I want to see Bryan Danielson compete for the world title, and he won the world title and all that. But like I haven't really felt the need to buy an AEW pay-per-view since then. But I also have an HBO Max subscription, so I mean, at some point I'll see those. I can see those pay-per-views. Um, but yeah, the whole Death Rider stuff is a separate discussion of what we're talking about with Mania and everything. I just looked up the card. There's no Street Profits match on Mania so far.
Yeah.
Uh, I guess they still have time to add that. Let me look at this real quick though. Of the two nights, so there's 13 matches, and I think that they probably will include. They keep saying like, oh, we'll do multi-man matches, or NXT they do multi-man matches, but let me look at this. Outside of, okay, so you have the New Day, so Kofi and Xavier Woods. That's two. Da, 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 da. I don't see any other African American male talent. You have Bianca. You have Bianca in the match, which we talked about. You have Jade Cargill versus Naomi, which is a match that has build to it, but I don't care about it.
That's gonna be so bad.
It's gonna be bad. I also don't think that. I think it's probably would be mostly a squash, maybe.
Well, I don't. That's a weird one though because Naomi came back. I don't. I feel like. I don't know what you do with that because like. I don't know. Like it feels like a waste of Naomi to job her.
I feel bad for her. I was never like a big Naomi fan. Not that she's bad. She didn't
She's
connect.
not.
There's a lot of.
She's not amazing,
but
I've always respected the fact that she put the work in to actually be passable as a worker.
I have respect for her because I've never really been that into her. Nothing against her in particular. There's a lot of people in WWE I could say the exact same thing about.
There's a lot of wrestlers in general.
I respect them, but they're fine. Yeah, they're fine, but they don't really do anything for me. Most don't do anything for me, so it's not a reflection on her. But I'm with you. Like I respect that. She kind of started off like not as a joke, but it's like, almost like the Trish Stratus thing. It's like, oh yeah, whatever. Like we don't expect you to become anything, and then it's like, no, like I'm actually going to be serious about this. And Trish Stratus, Naomi, there's been some others, but like they actually made an effort to like, no, I'm gonna bust my ass at this, and they reach a certain level, and she's not, like a Mercedes or Chris Statlander or Willow Nightingale, like some of the people who are like tops in the American scene right now. But she made it herself respectable. And then when she left with Mercedes, she went to TNA and actually had like a really good run there and actually elevated herself and the women's division there. And then she went back and it's just been like kind of nothing booking.
That's what I hate. That's what I hate. Like when people like her go out and do like prove it runs and then they come back.
Yeah.
They did the same thing to like whatever he's going by now, like Johnny Nitro.
Yeah.
And they just slot you right back in where you were before, like it doesn't matter. Like, Nitro went out and had this big run. He had all these belts. He was a draw in the Indies, and then he's Miz's sidekick again.
Yeah. Now that is a guy who at a point in time would have been pushed to be like at least for the secondary companies, would have been like your main star maybe.
He was kind of in the tens because he was
yeah,
he's kind of big in Lucha Underground. I think Impact did some stuff with them. I'm kind of surprised he's never quite stuck with AEW. He kind of comes and goes a bit. I don't know if that's kind of his deal or whatever, but like I don't know. I like him, but he just doesn't. For some reason, he doesn't work in AEW for me.
He's athletic, but there's a lot of stuff that he could do that other guys younger can do better or flashier. I like him. He's 45, so it's also like he's in that role now where it's like you can have a good competitive match, but that's your role's not to like win. Like there are guys that AEW has. Someone actually pointed this out online, which once you think about it, and it's like, oh, that's right. There are certain guys that Tony Khan books to have like good matches with people, but and obviously this is not a unique thing in wrestling. Like wrestling has done this for like decades. Like there's always a guy who like will make other people look good. They're a mid card they're a mid card. Not, I don't even want to say glorified jobber to the stars, but they always like lose, but they make people look good. And right now they have,
I think Shad calls them the Carpenter guys. It's kind of like your Brad Armstrongs.
Yes,
we'll talk about a couple of those guys I think later. They're usually like your Arn Anderson would fall into this too.
Arn Anderson would, but I'm a little hesitant to fully put him in that only because Arn Anderson
but the thing is
was part of like one of the biggest stables of all time, and he had like multiple tag title runs, and he was presented as a big star. But he is kind of in that role.
You can be in that role and win a lot and win like lower level titles and stuff, and still kind of be in that role. Like I think people, especially now, because it's sadly in the internet age, it's gotten really kind of markish again with like wins and losses, but and the fact that guys have ceilings, but there can be a wide array of that kind of role, and like you can be like a really successful mid carder, even there's upper mid carders that fall into that are just there to make the really tippy top guys look good.
Yeah. Guys in AEW right now who kind of are fitting that role are like AR Fox, because they've been using him a lot lately. And again, it's like he can have a really great match with someone, but he's gonna like he can go out there and you can book him to have like a fantastic match with like Speedball, but he's gonna lose because
Yeah.
they want to push Speedball. Or Blake Christian. Blake Christian's gonna go out there and have like a entertaining match with like Kenny Omega, but he's not gonna beat Kenny Omega. Or you could have Speedball versus like I don't know.
Orange Cassidy's
Orange
kind of in that
Cassidy.
role
Yeah.
too.
Orange Cassidy is a little bit, but obviously he's had a lot of success.
Yeah.
Mark Briscoe is almost in that role.
He's a little. They could do a lot more with him, but he's. I sadly think Mark's kind of fallen into a JTTS role more than anything.
A little bit. He's a guy that it's like, obviously the real life tragedy. Like if his brother had survived, if he had, like they would have, even with the networks being weird about their appearance, like they probably would have eventually caved on that, and you would have had
I
them
don't
already been
know. I feel
maybe
like
more than
I
maybe more
kind
than
of
once be AEW champions.
I kind of feel like the only reason he got on there is because of how tragically Jay died, and that
I kind of feel that way too.
which is a shame. Because like the thing is, when we first talked about it on the show, I had forgotten the timeline. I was kind of like, well, like I kind of see their point, and then I looked back, and it was like at the time, which is even further in the past. But when we looked at it, he made those comments like 8 years ago, and then when I saw it was 8 years ago, I'm like, because to end the broader topic, I have a problem with this idea, especially with certain segments online that are super into canceling people. That like people can't, like, they have this opinion that like something, like if I look back on something I said 8 years ago, I'd probably cringe at some of it. Or even things I said like 10, 15 years ago in like a different culture. Like this idea that you can't change is what bothers me.
The extreme like cancel culture stuff. It's like someone on Twitter posted, like they're literally posting like maybe like a white person. They were posting like lyrics to a rap song, and maybe the rap song had like the N word in it. And it's like, well, yes, as white people, we should not ever say that word. But it's like if you're literally you're just posting the rap lyrics, and you're like, oh man, it's the great song. I love the song, and you're not like, is it insensitive perhaps? But it's like, does that mean you're like a racist bigot? It's like, no, I don't think you should take that from that. And then they did that like 10 years ago. It's like, look, he did this, cancel him. And it's like, come on.
Or he was like 16 at the time. Like there's
stuff. That's what it always is. It's like, like a 16-year-old posting rap lyrics. 16-year-olds listen to rap, and they made that. What is context? Context actually matters.
Or it's like they post something they did when they were 16. It's like, wait, you mean a teenage boy was insensitive? Like, I am shocked and amazed.
Oh, yes, a teenager was like an edgelord because they're in their rebellious stage, and it's like I want to get a rise out of these people, so I'm going to say something, and it's like
it's also the problem I have with it is it's kind of dying down now, but like it was this big era of like words were more important than actions. So like you'd have these pearl clutchers like policing like it's the same thing like I had talked about a lot that I had a problem with is like the whole Karen meme of like you're pearl clutching about something people said online, but then you're creep shotting a black guy at Target saying he's going to sex traffic you for no other reason than he's just a black guy in your Target. Like that's the kind of stuff that like bothers me, because it's like that's okay because, well, it's you for starters, but because you didn't like say something politically incorrect while you were obviously doing something very racist. And instead of someone who was maybe being a little edgy, a decade ago.
And teenagers, if it's like with something said when they were young, like teenagers say cringe shit all the time. Like if you like showed me like, here's a transcript of things you said when you were like, 18 or whatever, I would have been like, oh God. Like, I would have been like embarrassed because you say and do things that it's like years later, you're like, I'm even 10 years later, 5 years later, you're not like, I'm not that person. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. Yeah. But bringing it back to Jay, like, we talked about this, especially even after like he passed. Multiple people in Ring of Honor and elsewhere on the indie scene, in the LGBTQ community, said, look, he actually, when he was told like, this is really hurtful and painful and mean what you said, he educated himself and he changed. Like he was very respectful and nothing but, from what we've heard, like, this is not, I never knew him obviously, so I'm just have yet to go anecdotal, but the people who are part of the LGBTQ community who would know him and did know him and work with him said, you know what, he actually changed. Like, he made an effort to educate himself about the way he hurt our community with his words, and he was nothing but respectful and treated us as equals and as good people. Like, and it's like, okay, then he learned that's what you want.
Yeah, and I mean,
we talked about this. We talked years ago at this point. One of the first shows we did, maybe even before we did like the official podcast or official show, we talked about like when Hulk Hogan was brought back.
that was
and he
like
gave
the
speech.
second or third episode.
It's like 2018, I think. 2019. We talked about how he was brought back and he gave a speech to, like, the locker room. And it wasn't even like, guys, look, I know what I said was hurtful. I'm really sorry. I'm trying to better myself. It was like, yeah, man, you got to be careful. Like, they're going to, some people will tape you at it. And like, you don't even know they're taping you. It's like, well, hold on. Like, your issue is like, oh, people are secretly taping you. So you can't like just speak what is in your heart and your mind. You got to be careful. It's like, no, you should be like, whoa, I said some really racist, awful things. That's not who I am. I'm really sorry. No, it's like, at best, it was like, I'm sorry that you're offended, which is the classic, like, non-apology apology. But that was years ago. But that's not what apparently Jay Briscoe did. There's,
and I mean,
just in general.
I think in the context too, Hogan was an older guy, and I mean, I try to be empathetic to people and stuff, but I think Hogan never like took any responsibility for it. Yeah. And I think with like Jay and Mark, it's like, well, I mean, they are a couple of rednecks that are in the backwoods of like Delaware on a chicken farm, like I kind of understand why they probably don't have necessarily the most progressive of views, but they seemed like they were open-minded about it and like took ownership of it. So like, I don't see the point in holding it against them. It's like, and we shit on him a lot, but it's like when people bring up stuff like Randy Orton did, like when he was in his 20s and was just like a kind of a dickhead. And it's like, I don't like Randy Orton, but like, I don't really feel the need to hold stuff against him because if I got all that money and success when I was like 21 years old, I'd probably be an asshole too. So like, and he seems like once he had a kid and stuff that he's like legitimately like matured and grown up. Like, I just have a problem with it when people are like, well, they did this thing when they were like 10 years ago. I'm like, well, are they still doing the same behavior? No. Okay. So what's your point?
Yeah. There's, just in general about cancel culture, I'm trying to find the quote. I think I had it saved at some point, but I can't quite find it. But it was by, it's like a writer. She's also like a journalist, but Elizabeth Brunig. She had a really great quote. I wish I could use the exact language because I felt it was really on point. But it's basically like there's something really disturbing or concerning about us as a society or as a culture where with speaking specifically about cancel culture, like where you you demand people to apologize and you want to effectively cancel people, like make them pariahs in the society without giving them some sort of actual like means to atone and make good on some of that. Like and she's someone who's very left leaning, so she's kind of like a little bit calling out people on her own socio-political spectrum, where it's like, no, you need the goal is to make people change. It's not just like you're done, right? Like that, because that's people. If that's the way you're going to do it, people aren't going to change. Because they're like, oh, well, you're gonna cancel me, so whatever. I'm gonna continue being the way that I am. It's like, no, like you should
Well,
just accept.
it kind of hit its
Yeah.
logical conclusion too, where like in this day and age, like there are some idiots like essentially now with that thing is like you can only get canceled if you canceled yourself. So like the people that get canceled now are like people that grovel because, you know, they don't want to be thought of that way. But other people are just like, okay, like, well, I'm just gonna keep. It's just like if you ever watch like Asmongold, he's just like, well, I got canceled for like the 5th time this week, okay, and he just keeps doing his thing and no one cares. Like it just it doesn't have it like you can only get canceled if you let yourself be canceled now because I think it just lost its effectiveness. So, but it's also
Yeah.
the same thing where like you dilute that stuff. So like actual people that are problems get to go under the radar for a long time.
Hmm. Anyway, we went far afield from
Yeah.
WrestleMania and talking about the indie scene of WrestleMania.
Well, so we've been kind of watching it, but like, so the Collective, if you don't know what the Collective is kind of like Game Changer Wrestling and kind of like affiliated like shows with them. So like TJPW's in there, I think Defy's in there.
TJPW didn't used to be, and let me add some context. The Collective, in years past, and maybe I'm going back a little bit, but I'll say like even going back like 6-7 years ago, the Collective was actually like a big deal. Those were like some of the big shows.
No,
It's
you used to
been it
like
was
you used to mark your calendar around these, like even as recently
oh yeah,
as what like I feel like it started.
2017, 2018 for sure.
I feel like even
COVID threw things off,
well,
but
even I
it
feel
started
like
coming back a little bit.
I feel like even like 3 years ago when I watched some of them, I was kind of like these are kind of like starting to lose their luster a bit.
Yes, like COVID really kind of messed things up, and then they started it kind of brought back a little bit, but it's kind of been on the decline. But
And
the
I think that's
Collective,
also so there's some layers to this, but I feel like um well we'll get into it, but I feel like there is a talent problem going on with this that's been
there
like a
is
multi-year thing.
the Collective though. Um, it's pretty much like Game Changer Wrestling, but there at some point there were kind of some other smaller promotions tied up with this. The last Mania I went to
Black
was
Label
2019.
Pro, WrestleCade
Well,
used to do
yeah,
stuff.
Black Label Pro, they had a show. I think was it 2019? That was like so bad that they literally like folded after that. It was like but it was
No,
ridiculously terrible.
that was a different promotion.
No, Black Label Pro, like
I thought that was like some
I
like
think
no, I think it was a different promotion because I think Black Label Pro was still is
maybe it was Black Craft.
yeah, it was
I mean,
Blackcraft. It was like
okay.
it was like some witchcrafty thing.
Oh, like the opening of the show was Doug Bradley, aka Pinhead, like coming out, and they crucified a guy on the stage, and that took like 30 fucking minutes, and it took so long that they had to rush the rest of the show. So like
Yeah, that was
one
black.
of your
That wasn't
one of your marquee matches with Penta, it was like a literally like a 1 minute match because it's like, oh, you're pressed for time. So it's like, are you fucking serious?
yeah,
The
that wasn't Black Label Pro. That was like I'd have to look it up.
Blackcraft. I think
Yeah,
maybe it was Blackcraft. Maybe I get in my black
it was
mixed
some
up.
kind of like witchy um name. But yeah, that I remember that one. But I think also because it got big too. I think Joey Janela's Spring Break had a big impact on it. Kind of like Mania starting to
The,
become a
the last Mania that I went to was in 2019, which was in New York. The year before that, Collective Mania was in New Orleans, and I went to that one too. And already by then, like some of it was, if you cared about WWE, then obviously like Mania was like your big thing, and WWE back and then was not what it was now, in good ways and bad ways, I guess. But if you didn't care about Mania, you just cared about the indie scene. There was a ton of indie shows, and the Collective was like the biggest part of that. And
yeah. Because I had
I
talked
will tell you,
about
2018, the Joey Janela clusterfuck was a big deal to the point where there were guys even part of the observer group that it's like they literally because the clusterfuck started like I think like at midnight on a Friday. They were guys I knew
Oh no,
because they were all part of
that one
that
in
made.
New Orleans went to like 4 in the morning or something.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Like they're guys who part of that mania group. Like we saw them that Saturday, and they were like, they almost like they were like bleary-eyed, shell shocked. They're like, yeah, like I got back at the hotel at like 4 a.m. and then like they slept like 2 hours, and they're up again to watch more
Well,
wrestling.
I
And
had
it's like,
talked
are you fucking
about.
serious? But
I think I was actually planning. I was thinking about going in 2020 before it all got canceled. I was just going to go and see a bunch of indie shows, and I wasn't going to bother
well,
with Mania.
2018, this was it there for a while. The thing about the collective and all those indie shows that were surrounded Mania is that every year there was one or two guys that were like the stars of the weekend because they do like a dozen shows or more.
Yeah,
And
so
in
like Mike
2018,
Bailey
it was
one
like
year.
it was Mike Bailey one year. I think 2018 in New Orleans was actually Jeff Cobb, who was in the news
Yeah,
today. I think Will Ospreay was also because that was even before like he hit his heights in New Japan.
I think I think we thought it was going to be Jonathan Gresham one year, and I think that's the year Mike Bailey did it.
But yeah, there was like tons of there was that, and it was like a big deal. Like if you cared, the collective was like a thing. Um,
I think they
but
kind of
it's
got
not.
screwed this year because I think they're missing out on the Dragon Gate talent that came over largely. So I think that's going to hurt them. Because
It is, but it's also.
the best show is airing free on YouTube. It is not a collective show. I think it's Prestige
Hmm.
Wrestling. Because like I watched a bunch of them. I'll probably watch the TJPW show, and I might drop the 35 for the Stardom double shot. But like even like the Dragon Gate USA show has a couple of good sounding matches on it, but even that I was like, ooh, that sounds interesting. And then I heard the card and I was kind of like, my interest in this has dropped dramatically.
So I have a Triller slash well, it used to be Fight TV. So I have a
Yeah,
Triller
I hate the
account.
Triller. The Triller name is so stupid. I don't even know what it
Yeah,
means.
but I have it. So I technically can watch all these shows. I might I will watch the TJP, the W show. I probably would watch the DDT show because but the other thing is I also have a Wrestle Universe account. Um and I probably can watch. Well, I don't know. Like maybe because it's part of the collective, I don't know if I could watch the TJP or
I think
DDT
the
shows.
TJPW versus GCW was on. It might show up later, but I know. I don't remember. I'd have to. I could go look in the archive and see if. I think their American stuff does end up on their channel.
Yeah. I've talked about this show. You and I have talked about how we love Tokyo Joshi Pro, so that I will absolutely watch. But uh, there's a lot on here that
It's also crammed into
I don't
like
care.
2 days because they're all too pussy to go on a day that Mania is going. So
Three
it's all
days.
crammed into like Wednesday and Thursday with some stuff on Friday, and I think Effie's the only one that's like running anything on Saturday.
Well, Saturday. Here's the lineup. Thursday it's Defy. Then it's the High Spot Super Show. It's Bloodsport, Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, and Progress. And then Friday it's Tokyo Joshi Pro, DDT, Joey Janela's Spring Break, and then FTC. And then Saturday it's Effie's Big Gay Brunch, uh, GCW versus TJPW versus GCW. I don't know why they're GCWs twice, but that's what I'm seeing written here. And then Cluster Forever. So there's
And
three
there's stuff
shows.
outside of the collective. So like Dragon Gate USA is running that weekend. Like I think Prestige. There's like a Spark Joshi, which I don't know what that is, and
That that so that that flies under the radar, but that is I think like a American based Joshi that they run Joshi shows, but not I don't think that frequently. Maybe like Well, as far as like, who knows? They could be running them once a month for all I know, but I see it
I don't
kind of mentioned
I don't
maybe
need
every quarter.
I don't need sorry, this is gonna sound really elitist. I don't need American companies trying to ape wholesale like the Japanese style. Like just no.
I- I'm surprised. I don't know if they are, but if you've seen any of the or heard about the Sukuban, which people have thought is like a Yakuza front or something. It's like a money laundering scheme or something. They've done like a handful of shows, but they run a show every like maybe every quarter. But they are very like cinematic, and
Mm-hmm.
it is actual Joshi talent brought over from Japan. But they're
Yeah.
playing like different characters. Like Unagi Sayaki is playing like a different character. Uh Sayori is a different character. Um like Ram Kai Chao is
I'm I'm good.
they're all different
I
characters.
don't need I don't need a bunch of jet lag talent like working at 3/4 speed
I,
because
I
they're
I
dead
don't,
tie.
but I don't mind it because they're doing like bits and different characters. It's like at least it's trying to do something different.
I'll give it
So
that,
I
yeah, but
I can choose to not watch it, but it's also like I don't find it offensive. I'm not like whatever.
I
But
just don't have time like cuz they used to get this with like New Japan and like other Japanese promotions. You get the American promotion trying to like rip it off wholesale and they kind of like never quite get it. So it sounds like it's not that. So I'll give it a pass, but um I think it hurts them too because like some of those staple promotions that used to be part of it are gone. Like Chikara's gone, Ring of Honor's
mm,
gone. Um, I kind of feel like, and I feel like some of the staple events feel kind of stale because it's like spring break was fun, but it's just like, I've what's he gonna do this year? And like Effie's big gay brunch, it's like you've done that for 7 years now. Like it's not like the novelty is gone.
yeah.
And he's really done a lot to piss off everyone.
Well, yeah. Him, and really kind of GCW in general. Uh, to me, it very much strikes that the guy who owns, or promotes GCW, Brett Lauderdale, just desperately wants to have the WWE connection. And it's like, look, I get WWE is the most successful promotion, but their fans don't really give a shit about the indies.
Well,
Like they
yeah,
don't at all.
and if
So
you're game changer, I think I mean ECW worked with WWE, but like when you're kind of building your brand on like the Rebel promotion, like getting on your knees like eagerly for like the WWE, I think really is like a dissonance with your fans. But you touched on a great point though, because so these shows are not drawing like at all. I think
no,
Josh
I have.
Barnett's show has done okay. Like I think because they're set up for like, well, I think this was stupid. I honestly think this was stupid on their parts. They booked an arena for all these shows in the collective that is seated for 2,000 people.
Mm,
And I think that was dumb because I think a lot of these shows like CJPW, I think they're like the third highest attended so far.
let me see. Fourth.
So
What is FTC? What is FTC?
I have no idea.
That is
I was about to ask you.
that's the third highest. I don't know. I had to look it up. Spring
Oh,
Break is
for
the
the
second
culture.
highest. Well,
For the
actually, I take a.
It's for the culture.
Oh, for the culture. Okay. Oh, sorry that I didn't know the acronym. Um, they're the third highest. The first highest is actually Joey Janela's Spring Break. Then it's Bloodsport,
Yeah.
which is also kind of like that's a little sad because Bloodsport, I think there's like 10 matches or fights on the show, of which like or maybe a dozen. I don't know. There's a lot of which like 8 of them includes like a WWE talent or former WWE talent because Josh Barnett is like fully signed on to a WWE partnership too.
It's really the ones that have built
IRL.
up. It's the ones that have built up good brand recognition over the last decade are the ones that are like doing okay. As like mania
Yeah.
events.
Bloodsport's number 2 after spring break. Then it's For the Culture, and then the 4th one is Tokyo Joshi Pro. As of this past Thursday, so they could have sold more, but I doubt they sold out like 2,000 seats. But Tokyo Joshi Pro was like 681.
Yeah, so you're bringing these shows in for this, like TJPW in Japan, I think has maybe done 2,000 like once, and I don't even think GCW's done like 2,000 a lot, because I don't even know if like you put like Impact in that building if they would necessarily sell it out. But the problem with it is though, so it's a 2,000 seat arena. They probably got a good deal on it, but most of these shows have not even like gotten to 40% capacity.
Oh, so I feel kind of bad for Defy. As this past Thursday, Defy was at 363 out of 2022 potential seats.
Is Defy American?
They're not even
based?
at 25%. They're not even at 25%.
And they're kind of like, aren't they kind of like, they're not like the It Company right now, but I thought they were kind of getting a lot of.
They're kind of the It Company. They're the It Company I mean, I think this didn't Super Dragon book Pro Wrestling Gorilla?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's basically gone on hiatus because his wife, I think, had cancer, was sick. So
they kind of never recovered from COVID either.
They never recovered from COVID, but then after that, I think they did 2 or 3
shows.
They
ran, yeah.
It wasn't the same.
I also think switching venues, like, I understand why they switched venues and they had to, but like, I think that hurt them. And they were honestly like, they were going down before COVID really hit. And I think like they had gotten away with a very outdated business model for a long time, but I think that also bit them in the ass. Like, they didn't have a good way to like kind of rebuild.
PWG had the issue that unfortunately like Ring of Honor did too, where it's like you had some world-class talent and then they would get rated every year by the WWE, and so you'd have to replenish it. But then it got to a point, which happens, where the talent level that is there doesn't replenish what was taken from you.
Well, they kind of, and I think the indies are suffering because they got double tapped, because like they get the WWE raids, and then what would happen? So like, just kind of like how it would go if you don't know. So like WWE would raid the top guys, so you'd have the next generation come up. But what happened this time, and I think why the indies are in such a dire strait, is so WWE did their usual thing, but then AEW started. And so WWE did that top level raid because AEW was starting, but then AEW came in and swooped up that next generation of stars. So then the indies had to go 2 tiers down. And so now they've just never, like, no one's ever been able to build a name to like rebuild from what, and I honestly think like the talent level is not as good either in the current era.
That is something that, I mean, I think there are multiple reasons why some of these shows aren't selling.
Because like
part of it is like,
and you're, because like you could main event like those shows a couple years ago with talent that was big league talent. They just hadn't been signed yet. But now like you're kind of like main eventing these shows or having in high level places like guys like, and I'm not shitting on anyone because I like some of these guys, but like you have people like Matthew Justice and like one called Manders and people like that in high level places, and they're good talents, but they're indie talents, and they feel like indie talents, and it's like oh, your high point is maybe Ring of Honor or like MLW, and like people can feel that. And it just feels like this current generation just is not like the vets of this generation are not like big league talents. And by that, I mean by like charisma and presentation and being like a complete package. Like a lot of the guys at the top now just feel like indie guys.
Yeah. Looking him up, like he's with Impact now, but like Mance Warner, I actually like him. That's a guy who probably like, in years past would be like a big guy in like the collective shows, but is that a guy that WWE is going to take? No. Is that a guy that AEW? He had like a match in AEW.
He had a couple of matches in AEW because he worked.
Even if he did sign with AEW, it's like you're like a mid-card guy, like that. Best.
He worked at Dark.
Impact.
He works a dark match. The show Dark, not as in a dark match. He worked a match on Dark when when one of the shows I went to.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would agree. I would agree with your general thesis. Like I could see him having to run in AEW,
but he'd be like lower card guy.
And you can't.
And that's also fine because that's a whole separate discussion. But it's like there are people who there have always been roles in professional wrestling. Like the whole discourse is like, oh, so like Tony Khan or Triple H, like, they fumble this guy. It's like the whole fumble discussion has been like so turned on his ear. Like there are roles. People forget that there are roles. Like there are some guys. It's like all they will ever be is a mid-carder. If they go to a different promotion,
They'll be a mid-carder.
Some small percentage of them may break through, but most won't. And unless like a secondary promotion where it's like well, we're gonna talk about when we review in a minute this USWA. It's like Coco Beware in the WWF before it was the WWE. WWF was never like amount to anything. In USWA in the early 90s, he was a world champion for a time. So it's like, yeah, in a smaller promotion, maybe you can shine. But other times, like there are guys who they will never in AEW or even WWE, like they will never reach higher than mid card.
And if they're climbing up your card, it's because you're in really dire straits, like as a company.
Yeah, potentially.
Like if Ethan Page is creeping up your card to like challenge for like a world title on like a mainline show. That's not NXT. We're not counting NXT for this. But like if he was on the main roster of like SmackDown and he was challenging on a pay-per-view for a world title, or he went back to AEW and he's challenging for a world title on a pay-per-view, like the company is fucked for talent if that's happening.
I mean, that's another discussion, a separate discussion, but just not for nothing. The ratings for NXT started going downhill when you start pushing like Ethan Page and Sean Spears.
Well, I think the problem,
like, guys.
I haven't looked at their ratings, but I think
Lex King.
Well, I think the problem, and I think one of the guys on Flagship said that like he kind of wants the shitty students back because he's like, I don't care about any of these veterans they're bringing in, and I was kind of like, yeah, they really bring in like they have like the blandest of the bland vets. Like I mean. I still like Ricky Starks, but he is wasted in NXT because he does not have anyone like that is of like that's able to like go at him promo wise and like.
I like him. I think he's a good worker. Is he main event level?
No. But he should be on the main roster.
Is he main event in NXT? Yes, but NXT is not what it was.
And like,
if you take Ricky Starks as he is now, and somehow transport him back in time and put him in the era when the NXT main event scene was Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens and Shinsuke Nakamura and Pac, and like, no, he wouldn't have even been like, you would have been like laughed at him being like competing with those guys for like the world championship. Like, no, like he's a good worker.
He's
but
like
he should be in the main roster, like in a different era. I talked to you about this in a different era. Like you would have had Ricky Starks debut in the main roster. You would have had an upper mid card, face or heel, go out and be cutting a promo about whatever, and they get interrupted by the debut of Ricky Starks. The crowd goes like insane because they know who that is.
Yeah.
And they would have a brief feud in which Ricky Starks in a month would like beat this guy, and in a month time you'd be like, oh, this guy's a player, and maybe he wouldn't like win the world title, but that alone would cement him as like a solid mid card or a star or whatever.
He's like what
and instead he got debuted, and it's like now you're feuding with fucking Sean Spears.
Yeah.
It's a Rampage, like not even a main event, maybe a main event.
Because we kind of talked about this off air, but like, so we'll take Ethan Page versus like Ricky Starks. So we're talking about like upside, like Ethan Page is like always going to be a mid-carder. Ethan Page just has a ceiling. Like Ricky Starks has a ceiling, but like you can do more with Ricky Starks than you can with Ethan Page.
Yeah.
Like you can creep like Ethan Page. If you put Ethan Page up in the main event for like any amount of time on the main roster, people would be like, "Well, who's this fucking jobber?" But like
Yeah.
Ricky Starks, like you can't keep him in the main event. But like if he was on the main roster, you could comfortably he could be an IC champ, US champ. But like if some people got hurt and stuff, and you're like, "Hey, let's just put him up in a month long feud with like Cody for like a B tier pay per view." I don't think anyone would blink. I wouldn't blink. Like he's not going to win, but like he can hold his own enough as a promo that like you could get by for a month or two with him in the main event.
Yeah, if you put someone like I like messed up my hamstring, I'm gonna be out like 6 weeks. You could be like okay, let's have Ricky do like an angle. Like you wouldn't put the title on him.
No, but he wouldn't be out of place, is what I'm saying. Like people would be like, okay, well he's just like a challenger. But if like you did that with like Ethan Page or like Shawn Spears, people would be like, what the fuck?
What is it? Oh, Shawn Spears too. Like no offense to Shawn Spears. Like I don't dislike the guy, but it's also he's like 45, 40. Like I think he's like mid 40s, and it's like no. And he's never been booked as some. Ironically, AEW is probably the best use of him. Where there were times when when he was basically almost like MJF's enforcer with like the Pinnacle. It's like he actually made him seem like somebody kind of important.
Well, I mean the 10 thing,
like a mid card.
The 10 thing was fun in NXT, but he was a jobber.
He was over, but he was. Yeah, it's like it was fun, and it popped the crowd. But you wouldn't put the title on 10 guy.
No.
They put the title though on in TNA Impact. They put the title on Joe Hendry. It's like you're doing this wrong. I don't even dislike Joe Hendry.
You know what's funny is they were talking on the flagship. I didn't realize I don't know, his name's like Earl Thorpe or something now. And they're like, it's Carl Fredericks. I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot he existed because he was like kind of a hot thing in New Japan for a while, and he went to WWE and he's just done jack shit since then. And he's just like, he's just washed now.
I guess they're hyping him up because I think he's going to be part of like a multi-man for the title at whatever the NXT show for Mania weekend. But yeah, that's a guy. It's like he was in the New Japan Dojo system for like a long time. And there were basically, and I have criticism of New Japan where it's like you keep guys too long.
Yeah.
Because it's like you finally bring guys up, and it's like they've been in your dojo system for like 8 years, and now you're finally bringing them up to be like maybe somebody, and they're like fucking 36.
And
it's like,
and the crowds have watched them too long in that young lion role, like doing jobs and stuff, and they don't get invested.
Yeah. It's darkly. I mean, I guess you reap what you sow, but it's darkly.
Well,
a little bit amusing to me that the guy who's probably best positioned to be like your next big star is someone like Gabriel Kidd. It's not, the 3 or 4 different actual Japanese talents, homegrown Japanese talents that you have that are actually connecting with people.
In fairness,
like Ren Narita is like, whoa, like.
Well, I was gonna say
no one even cares about him doing like House of Torture shit.
I was gonna say, in fairness to them, this last generation of young lions have all failed in their own ways, and none of them are main event caliber. Anyone that looked like they were gonna break through have failed spectacularly when given the ball. I've never seen a group of talent just drop the ball repeatedly like them.
Kind of. I still think Yota Tsuji has potential.
He doesn't have
but
it.
There's something that he has the look. He's a pretty good worker, but there's something
he's missing. He doesn't have the it. He doesn't have the it factor.
But it's frustrating because it's like you seem like you should.
Because that's the thing I was going to say about Ricky Starks. I think that's what separates Ricky Starks from Shawn Spears or Ethan Page, is he has. I don't think he has a ton of it, but he has just enough of that it factor that elevates him. I
agree, but his superfans also
way overrate him.
They act like he is an unmissable talent.
No.
Of course he's gonna be the next big thing, and it's that's why I said the whole fumble discussion has been turned on its ear, because people say, "Oh, Tony Khan fumbled." It's did you not watch Ricky Stark's entire run in AEW? Because outside of the basically the last year he wasn't used. Mm-hmm. Okay, but the entire time he was there, he was used, and in some cases he was consistently on TV and had certainly in the last like year, if he actually being featured, had actually some notable feuds, including having like well-received matches with Bryan Danielson.
Yeah, like
Like he was,
there was a point like I think in 22 maybe there was a point where I thought they kind of were a little didn't quite know what to do with him and his booking wasn't great, but I thought they rebounded from that pretty well. I think it's when he turned face and he was feuding with Powerhouse. I don't think they were using him very well. But then when he kind of went heel again, I thought he was like, because I thought they had him in the pipeline, and I think it would have been fine. Like I think they had him in the pipeline at one point to be like the world champion, like the fake world champion on Collision, and I think that would have been fine. But like I said, he has. I don't think like you could main event him, but he has enough of that it factor. Like there is it factor there. That's something like that's I think the problem like as someone like an Ethan Page or even like a Brad Armstrong back in the day. Like that's what they lack. Like because Ethan Page I think is like I've always said with Ethan Page. Like if he wanted to work on my show, I'd be like, yeah, no problem. I'm 100% like you're a good worker, and I think he's a good worker. But like he has a ceiling, and that's a mid Carter.
yeah, and that's so lost in today's discussion. It's like they're guys. It's like they have a ceiling, and that's actually okay.
I also think it's
I know.
hilarious. I think it's hilarious that you had that giant pissing match with Robert, and like
Oh yeah,
everything you said in that pissing match like a year ago like is echoed by everyone in the wrestling ecosystem now. Like
yeah,
you've been proven right over and over again. Like the flagship guys say the same thing.
and,
Like it's
and,
conventional wisdom now, like about him.
well, and I wish I could pat myself on the back and say like, oh, I had such special, unique insight. But it's like I don't. I only like
You just
I just been a wrestling fan for like 30 fucking years. It's like I've seen enough of guys like Ethan Page. Good worker, but it's like he has ceiling, and you're right, it's a mid Carter, and that's okay. Like that's the thing. The more you watch wrestling, and the more like you as you mature as an adult, as a wrestling fan, it's like you realize like you may love a certain guy, and maybe they have a ceiling, and it may not be what you want it to be, but it is. And you just have to accept that. And Ethan Page is like he's the quintessential guy. It's like you said, oh, you want to be booked on my show? Oh, absolutely, I can find a spot for you. Are you gonna put the world title on him? It's like, I mean,
if
he
you're
has a
like
name, so if your promotion usually does like 400 people in a show, and you're like, if I put this guy as like world champion, he's been in AEW, WWE now. Maybe I could get like 600 to my show, maybe. But you're not gonna be like if you're a national televised company, like you're not gonna, you shouldn't.
no.
But that's okay because it's like you need guys like that. Not everyone could be world champion.
Yeah.
But that's what we are now. People think like, oh, if they're not world champion, they're nothing.
No, that's been a
They
problem
failed. You
for a
fumbled
while.
them. It's like,
That's been a problem for a while. Like I said, like it's kind of gone full circle, and like smarts have become like marks again with stuff like that. Because like you'll see bitching about like every time someone loses and stuff, and sometimes it's like, well, no, they have to lose eventually. Like like CM Punk fans used to be terrible about that. I don't pay attention to them much anymore, but like back in his like original WWE run, like anytime he lost, like the bitching would start like instantaneously from that segment of people, and it's just like,
oh, in AEW, a guy that people are like that is Jay White. It's like if you pay attention to Jay White, there are few guys in AEW that are actually more protected than Jay White. Jay White is actually, if you actually sit down and actually pay attention, ridiculously protected in like his wins and losses. Like he doesn't lose that often.
well, and there's the
And if
other
he does,
thing.
it's to actually like very upper mid card or main event talent. And he's never booked to look like a chump.
No,
Like
and
he's actually presented as a big deal. So be like, oh, because he has the one world title. It's like, okay, like should he? I mean, he's been world champion in New Japan. Should he win the world title? You could put the world title on him.
I wish Shad was
but
here for this discussion, because there's another thing current fans do that drive me up the wall, especially those types, is like they'll bitch up a storm about that, especially with tags like where they lose, and I'm like, they didn't get pinned, so they didn't lose, and then they do, that you cannot get it through their head. If Shad's still in the chat,
who ate the pen?
Yeah, who ate the pin? Because if you go to in AEW the same way. Like if you have Jay White and like I don't know Schlubby McSchlubberton, Schlubby McSchlubberton is gonna eat the pin. So because he lost the match because he got pinned. Like Jay White did not lose the match. That's the way it is in Japan. Like if you used to look at the results back in the day, they used to tell you who got pinned because that's who lost the match. So and people refuse to see that because like, well, they lost the tag. Like, yeah, because they teamed up with Wheeler Yuta and Wheeler Yuta got his face kicked in and took the pin. Like that's what he is there for. And I think we talked about that because we had this conversation once. I said to Shad, "Hey Shad, when you're teaming with that vet when you were coming up, who ate all the pins?" And he was like, "I did."
Yeah.
Like, that's
and it's also it's very classic, consistent booking where it's like, let's say you have like your main guy or a top level guy, and then the younger guy. So let's use, since you mentioned it, let's use Wheeler Yuta. Let's say Wheeler Yuta's in a tag match. It's him and Jon Moxley, and they're going against like I don't know, like FTR guys who've been multiple time tag champs. And we talked about this on the show. I said it, like I love. Even if you have like main event guys, especially if you do like can these guys get along? It's like you're gonna have Hangman Page and Swerve tag team, 2 top level guys. But if they go up against like FTR or like your tag champs, whoever they are, the Young Bucks or like whomever, like you shouldn't. And WWE was bad about this for a while, but you shouldn't be like, oh, Hangman Page and Swerve, like they're bigger stars, like they're gonna beat the tag team. It's like no. You should have the tag team, even if they're not on the same level of star power, you should have the tag team beat the shit out of your main event stars and beat them. Because why? It's like, because tag team, in kayfabe, tag team is supposed to be a different thing than being a single star. So the guys who are dedicated tag workers should run circles around even like your main event talent if they're in a tag team, but they're not used to being in a tag team. I'm digressing a little bit, but point is like if you have Jon Moxley, Wheeler Yuta versus FTR should like spend the match beating the shit out of Wheeler Yuta and then pin him.
But
if you have like Jon Moxley interjecting and doing well against either one of them, they should lose. And who ate the pin? Oh, is Wheeler Yuta.
It should now, go. If it goes even deeper than that though. Like go back and watch.
Yeah.
Go back and watch like a WWE or a JCP show. If you see like SD Jones teamed up with Jobber McGee in a tag, Jobber McGee's gonna eat the pen every single time. Like you go to JCP, Italian Stallion, and like I don't know, like again Jobber McGee, Italian Stallion's not eating the pen. He's a jobber, but he's a name jobber. Like it stays true through the whole hierarchy. Like that's because.
But now sometimes the booking. Again, it's not new. They've been doing this for like I don't know how many years. But if you have now, let's say Will Ospreay ultimately wins like the Owen, so he's challenging Jon Moxley at Double or Nothing, which is a possible actually in real life. Like that is a likely.
I can't take that fucking angle for.
I don't want to. I'm like Hawkeye in what Avengers Endgame, where it's like, don't give me hope, or what was it? It was Infinity War. I don't know. It's like, don't give me hope. Like
you guys promised me this would not go to Double or Nothing, and here we're looking. Like I don't
know. I promised you jack shit. I think this should have ended a long time ago.
I can't fucking take that angle any longer, and I don't know.
I'm holding out hope because people are pointing out that the poster for Forbidden Door, which is in Britain, is. Like Will Ospreay is like front and center of the poster. Like it's just
that's just good marketing.
I'm like, I hope this. No, give me what I want. It's not the belt. It's not on Jon Moxley.
If they fucking job Will Ospreay to Moxley, like I'm fucking done because you have a guy in Ospreay, and I've said this numerous times. He can't lose his first challenge for the world title, but you have a guy hitting critical mass mass. And I know they've convinced themselves that the Death Riders is withdrawing, but it's the rest of the card. It's because you have Kenny Omega back. You have Ospreay. You have Swerve. It's despite the Death Riders. And the thing is, like, the Moxley thing is not fucking working. Like, his matches die in front of their live crowds. And like, how do you decide?
It's not working.
How do you decide, like, well, it's not working on the internet. The live crowds don't like it. Like, where are these magical Death Rider fanboys that you seem to think exist that don't exist?
There are discussions to have as to the issues why it's not working.
I can tell you why Moxley's not working, because okay, so one, he's kind of stale as an act. I think like a Jericho type of run where he goes down to the mid card and just like does some side stuff would have done him good, but the angle itself is stale because it just feels like they rebranded the Blackpool Combat Club, which I feel was a little long in the tooth at the time. So you got those two factors. Now the third factor, which I think is a big problem, is the quality of Moxley's work has gone down in conjunction with all of this. So not only is he stale with a stable that's stale, his work isn't his best work. He's kind of taken a step back, and it's noticeable.
He simultaneously is too dominant and also is a fucking geek. And let me explain that. Like, his matches, he dominates too much of it, so he doesn't take the piss in the matches like he should, but he's also a geek where it's like you have the Death Riders interject and like they cheat to win essentially. So and even like in the build up to some of these matches, it's like he'll be getting it when he gets vulnerable, he's gonna get his ass kicked by the face, like the Death Riders like come in. And so basically, for people who watch New Japan, this is kind of like the AEW equivalent of like the House of Torture. But House of Torture, like, and that's actually a good analogy now that I think about it, because House of Torture, no one like fucking likes House of Torture, but they point like, oh, House of Torture, like when they put House of Torture, like, you know, like the shows, like the ratings, like the ratings actually tick up a little bit for House of Torture, like they're slightly popular with a segment of the population, and it's like, don't fucking hang your head, like, okay, like that, you have like 5 different groups, one likes it, 4 don't. But you're like, the one likes it, we're good, right? It's like, no.
That fucking like House of Torture's like War Dogs angle angers me on a level that few things in wrestling have ever angered me, because it is one of the worst fucking things I've seen in I don't know how
very few people like House of Torture, but this is like the AEW equivalent of it. It's like, and that would be fine if this was a mid-card shit. It's just like, all right, well, whatever. But it's your main event, so it ends the show on all your pay-per-views.
And it's like, it's 3 shows in a row where it's just died.
Yeah. I think it says, I mean, I think his ratings, he's nerfed his own ratings, but I think it says something when Meltzer rated Edge, Moxley. Wait, it was Swerve. It was Swerve Moxley at Dynasty. Like 3 stars.
He hasn't, like, I
think he even gave like Edge Cope Moxley higher.
Like the last time I'm not before I say this, I am not suggesting anything. I am just comparing eras. That's all I'm doing. I am not like intimating anything when I say this. But the last time I thought his work had gotten this bad was right before he ended up in rehab. That's the last time I remember his work being this outright bad on a match to match basis. I'm not saying anything by that. I'm just comparing like his output of work.
He's certainly not drinking again.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like the last time I thought his work had like slipped to this slipped this bad quality wise was that era.
Jon Moxley, as an aside, Jon Moxley is in like ridiculous shape, but I feel like it is kind of what I said. It's like
his stupid choke finish is dumb too. I hate it.
Because he's doing like MMA Moxley, but you're not leaning into the bit. in the sense that you're dominating matches, but you're also taking the piss where it's like you're doing the chicken shit heel at times. It's like, no, if you're trying to sell this MMA
He needs
shit,
to pick a lane.
like you need to really like. I mean, I don't. You're not like Brock Lesnar. You're not a guy who's like 6'10". You're not Undertaker or Kane. You don't have that size, so you shouldn't dominate your matches. Like even if you want to try and do like a shoot style type of thing, maybe you can incorporate that, but you shouldn't like
He needs to
dominate your
be
matches.
with his looks. He should be. I don't know who to compare him to. He should be that guy that gets his ass beat and just doesn't know when to stop. Is kind of like his approach to things.
Kind of, but think back in the day, like even Austin was presented as like the biggest shit kicker on the planet, and even he didn't like just unless he's going against a really lower card guy. Like if he's gonna have a Mania match with Rock, he is just like, oh, I'm gonna like dominate Rock for like 90% of the match. No, like it was a back and forth thing, or he get his ass kicked for a while, then he'd come back. Like he was presented as like, oh, this is like the biggest badass on the planet.
And he,
like
on top of that problem too, his matches have the other problem. They have the NWO problem now. Whereas, like if I'm watching his match and there's still members, like if they're kind of going like doing an end run and I haven't seen Marina Shafir yet, I'm like, oh, okay, nothing matters until she gets out here.
Yeah, yeah.
Because until you've seen every member of the Death Riders get involved, like nothing means anything because they're just
it is going back. It's the NWO thing to bring in a more modern era. It's like it's the bloodline thing. It's like, oh, Roman, oh, like we've seen Jey Uso. Oh, we've seen like Paul Heyman. Like, oh, we haven't seen Jimmy Uso. Oh, he's still gonna show up, so there's gonna be more interference. It's like, yeah. Oh, Pac showed up. Okay. Oh, Claudio showed up. Oh, we're good. Oh, Wheeler Yuta. Yeah, he's gone. Like, oh, we're good. Oh no, Marina Shafir. Oh, we still got more interference, guys. Oh, what happens?
Oh wait, they got banned from the building. I bet they're still gonna interfere.
Yeah, like it's again, it's House of Torture. It's like, okay.
And they're getting that thing where people are watching the entranceway instead of them. Like, I can't believe.
I hate that about wrestling too. It's like that you should be focused on the match. You shouldn't just be like this, waiting to see or looking at the Titantron, the big screen.
I fucking hate it. I wouldn't even like this in WWE, but it is such like not an AEW way to approach matches and stuff.
No, that's why people back in 2023 started hating about MJF's title run, which I feel is kind of maligned.
It's deservedly maligned for the Brochacho shit that would not end.
I didn't hate the Brochacho stuff like some people did, but I can appreciate like
it was the problem is it was fine for like a month or two and it went on for 6 months. Like
that was the problem. Well, again, I like Tony Khan. Tony Khan though struggles, and some people say like, oh, it's because he's on the spectrum. It's like no one knows that shit. Like, why are you throwing that out there? He struggled, but to the extent that he does struggle with like pivoting.
Yeah, but
it's obvious. It's obvious they did all
Triple H on the spectrum because like he fucking has the exact same problem with. He has a worse problem with pivoting. Honestly, like they have a lot of the same problems as bookers. So like if you're gonna say Tony Khan's on the spectrum, then is Triple H on the spectrum? Because you're just. I think people are just saying that based on his appearance and the fact that he's a little goofy.
He obviously, the first All In was MJF versus Adam Cole. And it's obvious that your plan was for Adam Cole to snap and turn on MJF and win the title. But then he got injured in real life. He was on the shelf for like a year.
No, he came back he came back and got hurt again, I think.
Well, he broke he like massively major.
I think he came back for a couple of matches, then he got hurt again. Like I think there was an injury. I think he came back and got hurt again. I think there's been a second injury.
Well, I mean, he
was out
for a long time.
I think he was back a bit. Yeah, he's been mostly injured for a while.
But it was obviously the goal was MJF versus Adam Cole Part 2, and Adam Cole probably turning and winning the title. But he was injured. But Tony Khan was like, it was like he was in denial. So it's like, oh, let's continue like dragging this out for a few more months to see. And it's like, dude, like Adam Cole isn't coming back anytime soon. So you got to pivot. He finally pivoted, and it's like, oh, all right, well.
And I think
I at that point, I don't even know if he really did it to pivot, but he did it because, like MJF, if you recall, like messed up his shoulder. So it's like to the point where he was almost gonna have. He didn't, I don't think, but he was gonna potentially have shoulder surgery. So it's like he can't. He's got to like be on the shelf for a while anyway.
I don't.
So they pivoted, but the title on Samoa Joe, then obviously Swerve, Danielson, now Moxley, but he struggled with pivoting, and it's like, dude, I'm digressing again, but like I thought the MJF title run was actually not as bad as some people claim it. Some people are like, oh, it's the worst title reign. It's like, it actually wasn't. How about the Punk title reigns? The Punk title reigns that lasted like a month or two before he like, because he's a fucking old man who injured himself. It's the worst.
I'd say it's the worst.
Someone breathed on him.
I'd say it's the worst one that didn't have something go wrong. Well, it's down there. I'd say it's one of the worst. I wouldn't say it's.
I thought the quality of his matches, though, like to me,
weren't good.
I'm not gonna rate it as worse. No, I think they were good.
The Bryan Danielson one, I just did. It was fun. My problem with it was I think it was fine for like the first 6 months, and then it was like a dog that needed to be put down like a year ago by the time.
Oh man, wow.
Like it's like when you go to someone's house and you just look at their dog and it's like that dog's done. Like you need to stop torturing it. But so before we get to midnight, so let's move on to the USWA.
Yeah.
Okay, so this week we did the 314 and the 321 shows. Not gonna lie to you, these weren't stellar episodes. Truthfully, I think
there wasn't a million things that happened of consequence in each show, but
the first show I thought was okay. The second show, I don't know if I was just in a bad mood when I watched it, but I was kind of like, other than like the one angle, I thought that show was kind of like phoned in. But so we're gonna start with the 314 show. So,
right,
Dirty White Girl comes out because the Dirty White Boy's coming back, and then this gets a little rapey because Eric Embry comes out and like kisses her, and it's a very uncomfortable angle. Dave Brown really does sell it pretty well for.
Oh yeah. In my notes, I wrote Eric Embry sexually assaults Dirty White Girl. So, for folks, like this is available on YouTube.
Yeah, there's a whole playlist. If you put in USWA Wrestling 1992, you'll literally get a playlist that comes up with every episode from this year, in order.
So, Dirty White Girl comes out, and she talks about how like Dirty White Boy Tony Anthony. Like he wanted to come back, but he's been injured, so it's gonna be a few more days. And then Eric Embry saunters out, and he's like, Dave Brown, like what she's saying these things, like what that means. Like she really, like she says, it is very rape because it's almost basically saying like, oh, she's saying no, but like she really like wants me. So he basically forces her, like grabbing her by the hair and like kisses her, and it's like I mean, again, like we're now 30 or plus years after the fact, but it made me uncomfortable. I'm like, you can't, like it. I was just cringing and thinking like, you did that shit in today's day and age. Like you might actually like they might write you up in the papers. Like Sports Illustrated might be like, what's going on here? Like why do they do this angle?
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Like Dave Brown, to his credit, was like you need to leave. Like this is like horrible what you just did. Like you like think about what you just did.
Yeah.
Like, but I actually appreciated that because it's like you have. I mean, I guess Dave Brown's kind of like the face announcer. They're both faces. Him and Corey Macklin are kind of like faces, but
Macklin really doesn't deviate much. Like Macklin doesn't have much of a personality. Like Dave kind of is the voice of the audience, I think, to a larger degree.
Yeah, but he did sell it where it's like this is like reprehensible behavior, like horrible. Like why would you do this?
Like I've never seen anything so gross out here before.
Yeah. I also wrote in my notes Eric Embry looked a lot like late 90s, early aughts Steve Carino because he had like the
He looked like he showered
like
this week though, because there's some weeks he comes out and it looks like he just went out back and like got wet and rolled in some dirt.
mm,
But he looked like he showered this week.
he looked less greasy, but
Yeah.
he kind of had like the Steve Carino like darker beard versus like the platinum hair, like you know.
We were kind of
But there was
talking.
that.
We were kind of talking off air. Like I was rating guys out of 10 on like a promo ability, and
Mm,
I was saying like 5 is like your bog standard average, and I said I thought Dirty White Boy was like a 7 or a 7.5, and I was thinking about Eric Embry, and I'm like, like I think I might give Eric Embry like an 8 out of 10 as like a promo, maybe even like an 8.5. Like he's really like up there as like a promo guy.
we talked about Embry, maybe off air, but uh, the sad. This is now 30 plus years after the fact, but the sad news, folks. Eric Embry, like we're like he has maybe like a year left in his career
No,
at this
it's
point,
this year. He
or
because
less.
I think in November of this year he gets into a car wreck and he does like a comeback match. He does one comeback match in like 93 or 94 and then he hangs it up just because he can't do it.
I think 93 because he like horribly injures his knee, has like one comeback match, and I don't know if he tweaked his knee or whatever, but he's like, yeah, no, and he that's it. Um, and that's sad because I agree with you. Like I think he was a good enough worker and a pretty good promo that he should have had.
He's too short and like he didn't have the look that they like. Like that's his problem.
Oh, he didn't, but he should have actually like. So it's tough to say because in '94, I think is when Hogan came to WCW. Um, Certainly by '95 he was there, but Eric Embry is a guy like he would not in the WWE, WWF,
I think he
WWE.
could have. I think you could have. I think if he had been able to hold on, I think he could have found his way into ECW and maybe held into like
Maybe
early Ring of Honor days as like a manager or something. I don't think he. I could have seen him maybe like getting when Bischoff was just throwing money at everyone. I could have seen him maybe being like a syndication guy on like WCW in like '97 for like 6 months or something. But like, I think that was
maybe, but
his
I mean,
tops.
I think he was a good enough worker and entertaining enough and interesting enough that he could have had a role in like WCW maybe. Not as like a main guy, but like mid card,
Oh,
lower
he
mid
a
card.
worldwide guy. I think. Like I think
Yeah,
if he had not gotten hurt, I think like when everyone was getting signed in like 96, 97, 98, I think he would have been like a 6 month like oh he's on. He would have been like in like Saturday Night with like Chip Minton and stuff like that. He would have been like one of those guys that
he
like
would have, but I think he was entertaining enough that like you could have maybe had him in like 95, 96. You could have had him maybe even
yeah.
have
But
like
the
some
problem
nitro
is
stuff.
the
Not
problem.
it would have been big, but he could have been like enough of a character that he could have gotten a little bit over that. You could have seen him like maybe be losing and jobbing to like I don't know Prince Ikea or some.
Yeah.
They could have actually pushed, but he would have been somewhat entertaining.
So he beats the Jobber. I don't even think they said the Jobber's name. So then we get a recap.
Chris Frazier.
Okay, Chris Frazier.
I wrote it down.
Okay, so then we go to we get a recap of the Moondogs against Lawler, Kamala, and Coco Ware, and then essentially what happens after this. So Coco and Kamala pretty much have not settled their beef over the world title.
Hmm.
So we pretty much get a Dennis Corluzzo promo. You know, I have a pro- I have I have a problem with Dennis Corluzzo. I actually like his delivery, but he really needs someone to. He really needs someone to write his promos for him because, like, he really loves going for that like low hanging racism fruit, and it's not like well done at all.
He edges a lot into that.
And it's not like a
Um,
clever like. I'm not like pearl clutching. Like I think you can. I've seen some old stuff like where they cleverly like it's an old one and it's inappropriate, but like the Brickhouse Brown like face turn, where like the
Mm.
thinly veiled like racism like Robert Fuller was like throwing in there, like stuff like that. I think would have been like it's old, but it would have been fine. Like it's like okay, well it's not in good taste, but like they're being
Was it
clever
that?
with it. You know, maybe he's being sneaky, but he just goes for like the cudgel like every time, and it's just like the
Yeah,
what.
it's there's less subtlety. Wasn't so? Let's take a step back. Wasn't the Brickhouse Brown like because he was kind of part of like the stud stable with
Yeah,
Robert
remember he
Fuller?
gave
Wasn't
like
it like
he gave all the other
he's
guys
like
like nice presents, and he got like
here's like yeah like here's your Rolex watches and everything, and then for Brickhouse Brown, who is African American for those who don't know, he's like yeah man like we got you like
he got
this
like
watermelon over here like
watermelon and like Crown Royal like whiskey or something like
yeah,
that.
and Brickhouse Brown is like what the like there I remember like I because we saw that angle there I remember like there's a little bit of that where it's like there was some subtleties like the racial undertones, but it was also like there was enough plausible deniability where Robert Fuller could be like what like I thought this is what you're into like not like I'm trying to be racist but more like there was a almost like a rational explanation for it, but I don't know, that was a well done angle.
He's
But I
Brickhouse.
agree. Like, then
Brickhouse has one of my favorite shoot interviews ever because he's just smoking a
comments about
cigarette.
Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah, he's like, I'll tell you what, like I got Jeff Jarrett his like first piece of black pussy, and he's been sprung ever since. Like it is the best line ever. And he's just sitting there, like
Brickhouse's character.
and he's just sitting there this whole promo, and he's got a cigarette in his hand the whole time. I'm just like, that man was a national treasure, and I was really sad when he died because like
Yeah, Brickhouse is actually a lot better than like,
he's
he was
like
given
he's
credit
kind of
for.
like a forgotten, treasure of that era.
Yeah. But I agree with you about Dennis. Caruso? I always know how to
Corluzzo.
Coraluzzo.
Because he's if you
There's
don't
like
know who
less subtleties.
Dennis is very famous because he was a big time indie promoter of the '90s. He's famous for he's the guy that Heyman snaked over the ECW, well the NWA World Title thing with
Yeah.
Shane Douglas. Like he is the guy that got kind of knifed in the back over that.
Mm,
If you don't know, they did for his
yeah.
greater importance. Like he was like a big figure of the '90s.
Yeah. Yeah, but he cut that Dennis cut like a promo where he basically doesn't want to have any part of Kamala now, being a face
It's
teaming
also
with Jerry and Coco.
it's also weird. Like the other thing that weirds me out about it with the racism from him is like you're managing a black wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
Like it makes, I don't know, for some reason that makes like the dissonance even worse with me. Because I mean, I know Kamala is supposed to like not speak English or something, but like if you're doing that, like wouldn't the other guy be like, dude, what the fuck? I don't know. It's just like
He still
that makes
it's odd because it's like you'd be like, oh, like you like you're trying to play a racist angle, and meanwhile, Kamala's like, you're still playing the I don't speak English, like I'm total savage Ugandan giant, like even because it's like, oh, you're racist against this guy. It's like, but the guy doesn't speak English, and he's acting like a savage, like he does, like I'm a barely literate like monster savage guy, and it's like,
I mean that there was that time.
With the rational reaction from a rational human being being like, but this guy's like a violent savage. Like, I'm not against this guy because he's, African American.
He can make money off him. No,
Yeah.
I mean, we do know he doesn't speak English because that time Mean Gene confronted him about missing promos in St. Louis. He's like, well,
that's hilarious.
I don't speak English.
Yeah.
And he was like, what, we wrote it. We had Jim Barnett write it in Swahili, and he just lost his mind.
I had a whole conversation on Twitter recently, where it's like, because this year, to their credit, the WWE is finally inducting him into their Hall of Fame, but against their credit, it's like this guy when the real guy, James Harris, had both his legs amputated and was like, a pauper. Like they couldn't fucking help him out. They couldn't, induct him in the Hall of Fame, like do something for him then. But now years after he's died, like he's inducted to the Hall of Fame. But it's like
they did that shit to Vader too, and it pissed me off when they did it then.
Yeah. But the older the more and I feel like this show has really opened my eyes about Kamala, because when I grew up, it's like Kamala's like, oh, this guy's not like a good worker, like whatever. It's like the more you become mature as a wrestling fan, the more you see, it's like I become a Kamala fan. And Kamala is never going to be the same breath as Kenny Omega.
No, I mean he's limited. But there's
he's limited, but I have learned to respect him because why? The guy knew his gimmick. He played his gimmick really well. He would go out there and have matches within his limitations and didn't hurt his fucking opponents. Even guys like Bret Hart, who is beloved for good reasons as being one of the best of all time, but a great worker. Bret Hart has nothing but good things to say about Kamala. Why? Because it's like a big dude, incredibly agile, and
he said he didn't have an ego about
easy money.
And he said he didn't have an ego about bumping.
As someone who appreciates wrestling, watching wrestling a long time, you appreciate wrestling as an art form. It's like, this is the guy, it's like he did everything well. And it's like, is he like Picasso? Is he painting a portrait that is going to stand the test of time? Like, no. Like, there are guys like Kenny Omega or Ric Flair or Eddie Guerrero or whomever, like, is like some of the best of all time.
He's an interesting shoot interview though, because if he gets into the weeds about the gimmick, like you mentioned, like the art of it, like the artistry of it all is like something that he was very considerate of. Like he talked about like the little stuff he did, and he talked about like, well, heels weren't supposed to sign autographs, so if someone came up and asked me for an autograph, I'd pretend like I didn't know how to speak English. And he talked about how he liked doing that stuff.
Yeah. No, he got it. He worked within his limitations, and
I think he's still
limitations, like,
I think he's still one of Hogan's best drawing opponents. Like Big Boss Man's the top one, but I think Kamala is top 3 maybe. Like he's way up there.
I'm sure if you ask Dave Meltzer, he could tell you off the top of his head. But I think Boss Man, Kamala, and maybe like Orndorff.
Yeah,
I actually think maybe like I don't know if he was like in the top, but I think like Killer Khan actually was like a well-drawing opponent. But
and if you're listening to
Kamala and Boss Man, I think Orndorff were like maybe the top 3. Like they were high up there.
If you're listening to this and saying, well, what about the Andre match? Like they didn't work the house show circuit, so this is like total drawn. Because people are always blown away that Boss Man's his like best drawing opponent.
Yeah, Boss. Well, people also don't realize that at one point Boss Man was big, and I don't mean like big in popularity necessarily. Like he was like 400 pounds, and a big dude. So it's like he was really believable.
And he did some crazy shit back in the day too. Like, because if you don't know, we've talked about before, but so how he started out as a jobber in JCP, and he got on full time there because he took. And remember, he's still a big guy. He took the slingshot suplex from Tully.
From Tully Blanchard.
And that's how he got a job there. And so they kept using him, and he started turning into a jobber that gave people trouble. But that's how he got in. And you can find a gif of it. Like he takes it like a champ.
Mm.
And if you don't know what the slingshot suplex is, so pretty much what Tully would do is he would do like a vertical suplex and bounce you off the top rope, and then like kind of flip you. It makes sense.
It wasn't quite like Bill Goldberg's jackhammer.
No, he used the ropes.
But but it in the kayfabe aspect, the bouncing off the ropes like added velocity, so it was more painful and more impactful than a regular suplex. But
someone stripped that move off, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, doesn't Dax do? I think Dax does like a slingshot powerbomb, doesn't he?
I think so. He does slingshot something.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, bring it back. Well, oh, as an aside, because this got posted like in the last month. It's like every 6 months at most, maybe less than that. People post the some big account on like Twitter or whatever. Post the GIF of a boss man jumping from like the top rope. It's Bossman versus Earthquake, that match
Oh
they
yeah,
had
yeah.
in the early '90s, and Bossman like doing a leap from like the top rope onto Earthquake, and Earthquake catches him and doesn't even like fucking like move. He like that's as an aside, because also natural disasters are going into the Hall of Fame this year. John Tenta was ungodly strong. Because
Well,
that was
John
before
Tena,
Bossman, I think, had slimmed down a little bit, but he was
yeah.
still like probably at least a 300-pound motherfucker.
Tenta
And
is
John
like,
Tenta grabbed him and like maybe like took one step back to plant his foot, but he didn't even like wobble. No, he like grabbed him.
Tenta's
300-pound dude like jumping
like
off him.
quietly one of the best athletes that was ever in the sport, because he was like a sumo, like rugby, like football player.
John Tenta is underrated. We'll have to do like a whole.
It's been on my
like
list.
A show on John Tenta.
He's been on the fucking list for like 5 years. Sometimes it's hard to get to. Like it took, how long did it take? It took us 3 years to get to the Rey Mysterio Psychosis episode that I had on the, like, if you don't know, like I keep a list of stuff I want to get to, and it's taken years. There's been stuff that's been on the list for years.
I listened to old episodes of our show where we talked about like, oh, we're gonna do Rey Mysterio Psychosis, and it was like 2 years after.
Well, the thing
we actually did the show.
The thing is, like,
oh, okay.
The thing is, like when we started the show, and we were gonna like not the precursor, but we were like, I don't know, 16 episodes in, and like you have that panic of like, oh my god, what are we gonna talk about every week? And then you get like a year in, and you realize like the list doesn't get smaller. The list just like keeps getting longer and longer and longer and longer and longer and longer and longer, and it just like, because like the more you like dig into the old stuff, the more stuff you find is like kind of what happens. And like so the list that I have like a kind of a running list of ideas I want to do, and that list has never gotten smaller. And like I think the Barry Windham worldwide match had been on that list since almost the first episode of something I wanted to get to. Like it just does not. And like there's other ideas I have, like honestly, like we could do this show for decades, like because we could do this like year-long watch with other things. So okay, so they kind of do the Corluzzo Coco-Ware promos, so they're gonna have another match for the world title because they still have problems. So then we get Dr. Death defeats Freezer Thompson. If you'll notice with these shows, Freezer Thompson is like a higher caliber jobber than the other ones, because they always make sure to mention Freezer Thompson by name.
Yeah.
You never miss that it's Freezer Thompson, and he's been around for like forever. But so so then we get so this is interesting. So then we get this guy. It's Mike Mitchell was his name. I looked him up, and you couldn't find it on either. So this is the Young Gun defeats the Invader, who's a jobber, but this guy was not good.
He was not good. There's nothing special, and
the pins were real awkward and weird.
Dave Brown is like, oh, Mike Mitchell, he's returning, and I'm like, I've never heard of this guy. And then I tried to look him up. He doesn't even have like a cage match like page. It's like, who the hell is this guy? Like, I don't know. He was not very good.
And he's gone.
But they made it seem like, oh, he's like a name guy. Like he's coming in, it's coming back to the USWA, and it's like, I never heard of him.
And he's one of those guys that he did some like high fly stuff, but then he couldn't do the basics. Like he would do pinfalls, and he didn't know how to have like the guy kick out. It was just awkward and weird. This is not good. I think he's wrestling Brian Christopher for the Texas title on this show, and then I think he disappears. So then,
by the next episode, like they mention him.
So then we get Lawler and Jarrett come out. Jarrett's back after an injury, and they're doing kind of a big Was it an 8-man? Yeah, I think it's an 8-man because it's them and Kamala and the returning Jimmy Valiant against the Moondogs and the Big Black Dog.
Yeah.
So then they kind of it's their
Who's that?
typical.
Wait. So who's supposed to be the fourth man for the Moondogs? Richard Lee?
I think it was Richard Lee.
You know, because we actually like a few weeks back when we were watching this, like I think both you and I both like looked up Richard Lee, and I found out like the guy wasn't for a guy as good as he was as a manager, and could cut a promo, and got involved in actually doing wrestling matches. Like he wasn't even like a worker.
He was
He's like a local disc jockey or
yeah, because
something like that.
I asked in a different Discord, and he's a PWO guy, Peter F, and then Travis Heckle, who does the Jim Cornette art, told me he's a local DJ, and he was just I don't remember exactly what they told me. I have to go back and look the message, but they explained like his whole deal, and he was just doing this as like a side gig because he liked wrestling.
We've talked about it on the show before, but the guy was really good.
Yeah, like he's
like
he's stupidly
if he
good.
had wanted to, if he had actually like in the 90s wanted to make a career out of this, like I'm kind of feeling this, like he could have actually had a spot.
He's better than
in the WWE.
He's
like,
better than guys like that made it to WWE or like WCW. Like he's better than he's better than a lot of people they've trotted out as managers.
I don't know if he would have worked in the WWE,
Too southern.
but in ECW or WCW, like he could have actually worked, like and been pretty good, like something. Like I don't know. I don't even know if the guy's still alive, but I mean, and he at this point, it's like he wasn't around that long. But
I wonder if
that's the guy. Around. Like he should have had like a 10-year career. And then he should be working like the wrestling.
I have to imagine I have to imagine he's not, because they would have dug him up for something by now.
He's not alive?
I'm saying I don't know. I'm saying I would have to guess. I'm just spitballing. I would think maybe he's not alive because they haven't he hasn't shown up on anything. Like like Zellner and Bix haven't like pulled him in for like a podcast or anything. So I don't know, because you would think someone would like get him for an interview or something, because it's not like those more obscure like regional manager guys or whatever from shows haven't like been doing like shoots and stuff. And like there's a lot of big time Memphis fans that I think would have, because like Scott Baldwin, did stuff with Zellner and did his blog and everything for a long time, and he was like in that same position as kind of like a USWA manager that didn't do much else. Okay, so then we get the Richard Lee promo after this. The Moondogs killed jobbers. So then it's time for our main event. This is Brian Christopher and Tony.
Before that, I wrote in my notes, look, I'm not the biggest fan of Jimmy Valiant. Maybe because like my favorite. Look, I'm an AEW fan. I think for the last 5 years, AEW has been like incredible, but probably still my favorite promotion of all time is Jim Crockett Promotions, and that basically turned into WCW. So I'm lumping WCW into that. So you're dealing with like a decade plus like promotion of JCP into like WCW, but I love that. So that's still probably like in my heart my favorite promotion of all time. But AEW is like really good. Like it's up there. Now, all that said, like I watched a lot of JCP, so I was traumatized, in my opinion, by the endless Jimmy Valiant versus the Paul Jones Army feud.
Yeah.
So I'm not really a fan of Jimmy Valiant in JCP, Jim Crockett Promotions, but they did a whole promo package for Jimmy Valiant here, and I'm like, oh my god, like a promo, like a video package of Jimmy Valiant. But I was like,
He's kind of a
gosh.
different animal at Memphis. We'll get to it with the
Well,
next
we're gonna get
episode.
to that in the second episode. But yeah,
Yeah.
but yes, Moondogs destroy the Jobbers. Before we get to the main event, Tony Falk, because Tony Falk is supposed to have a karate match with Pat
Oh, Pat
Tanaka.
Tanaka. I
He
didn't write
runs
that
out.
down.
He runs out in this little like karate like outfit, and it's like, what is this? I actually got a big chuckle because it's like he looks absolutely hysterical in this like
Even more so
weird
than
karate
being a
outfit.
limo driver. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the main event is Brian Christopher and Tony Falk versus Tom Pritchard and Fat Boy, which is one of the Fat Boys. I think the one that didn't get fired or whatever. So this is a time limit draw. Now, I actually
Yeah.
really like this. Like, this match isn't stellar, but I liked versus the other shows having a nice long match on TV that
It wasn't like a 20-minute match. It was maybe like an 8-minute match
it was
or
10
something.
minutes. It was a 10-minute time
Oh,
limit
Tim,
draw.
this was actually a shockingly decent match. And Brian Christopher and Tony Falk did well. Tom Pritchard was really good. I thought Fat Boy actually like did pretty well in this. I'm like, what is this? Because Fat Boy was like what, potatoes in the meat and
Yeah, I
potatoes
think he
tag
was the
team
one
that we
that
saw
actually
like,
had a career. Yeah.
yeah, that like we saw like 2 weeks prior to this, and it's like already like the one guy from your tag team's gone, and you're like tag teaming with Tom Pritchard. And then I don't think Fat Boy was ever seen again after this. But
No.
this was a shockingly decent tag match, like like a TV tag match. It was like shockingly decent. Like, is this gonna go in like your best of '92 compilation? No, but it was like
I
I was
would.
like, this is a pretty good tag match.
I think I would have to look. I bet this might be on the yearbook for '92 that like PWO and DVDR did
Really,
because it's just notable
I
stuff. It's notable
it
stuff
was it was shockingly decent.
for
I'm
like a
like, this is
TV for like a
pretty fine,
TV match in 1992. Yeah, this would be notable
pretty good.
because I know some of the stuff we've
I appreciate
watched.
this.
Some of the stuff we've watched, I know, is on that yearbook. Some of the promos and stuff made the yearbook, but I wouldn't be shocked if this was on there. But yeah, it was pretty good, and like for the TV we've been watching, like having a nice match was like long match was a nice change of pace.
Mm.
Cause like you get a decently long one every now and then, but like a lot of weeks, not so much this week. This week had a lot of in ring. Like some weeks, like you get barely any wrestling because like there's just insta like interference and stuff. So like some weeks like it's frustrating because it's like, oh, I didn't get like much wrestling, but this week you got a little more and you got a nice long match with no like shenanigans really. And then we get a long recap of like the whole Moondogs angle, which I liked pretty much. This episode I thought was low key, but it was fun and kind of moved. So we're gonna go to 321. Okay, so sadly the Coco Wear reign ends in a couple of weeks as we get highlights to start the show of Kamala winning the belt back. Brian Christopher comes out and beats a jobber in pretty quick fashion.
Don Kelly.
Yeah. Okay, so then we get a highlight of Jimmy Valiant defeating Dr. Death. So then Jimmy Valiant kind of comes out because Brian Christopher's out there doing a title versus title match that's coming Monday. And I kind of really like this promo because, like, well, Jimmy Valiant kisses him to start with, which is funny, but
Yeah. So they put the the Texas title.
no,
Jimmy
Brian
Valiant.
Brian Christopher has the Texas title. Jimmy Valiant has the Southern.
Oh, sorry.
Because I think they're getting rid of the Texas title with this.
Okay.
If I had to guess, I could
was
be
like,
wrong.
oh
But
wow. Like I think Valiant was like 52. So it's like you're really putting a title on Jimmy Valiant in 92. But Brian Christopher again, I've mentioned this before, like he's so hateable. Like there are few people I've seen around. Look, I know it's fake. I know like you're trying to elicit a reaction, but it's like even in that context, there are a few people that I've seen. It's like I just want to punch you. I'm not a violent person necessarily in real life. Like there's like I just want to punch you in the face for your like your little laugh and everything like that. Brian Christopher's like so hateable
I
as a
really,
heel
I really
in
like
this.
the
Like you're like just a like little chicken shit piece of shit.
I really like the promo Jimmy Valiant cut though, because Jimmy Valiant's just kind of like, look, I've known you for a long time. Like, you're a good kid. Like, let's go work out and like get a drink. And we're wrestling, but that doesn't mean we have to hate each other and stuff. Like, we can be
Yeah.
buds. And like, they do this high five thing, and then Brian Christopher blindsides him. But like,
Yeah, he like sucker punches him.
but the thing is, like, it's amazing how when Jimmy Valiant like dials it down, like he's really kind of a compelling promo when he's dialed down a bit.
When he's not like the dancing like caricature that I think that we got in like Jim Crockett Promotions, which I did not care for. Like he is more like interesting to me. He's more compelling. He's obviously like very cemented as a face at this point. So he was clearly like the face in this, and Brian Christopher is like no one's gonna confuse him as a face. Like he's clearly like your annoying heel.
But I like
yeah,
this is
like,
the
he was
second
interesting.
older. This is the second older guy that's like tried to talk sense to Brian, like, and not even like belittle him, because like Eddie Marlin kind of took this approach with him too,
Mm.
and he just doesn't listen because they're not even like belittling. They're kind of like, like you're a good kid, like you're talented, like let's work this out. Like it really makes him more hateable
Mm.
because you kind of have these really sympathetic characters trying to like reach out to him. Because even I mean the sucker punch is gonna go down, but it's still. But I thought this was a good angle. I thought this was a pretty good angle. It's the highlight of the show because I feel like the show doesn't quite hit this stride again, unfortunately. So then we get a recap.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
was like confused because I'm like I'm not really a fan of Jim Valiant, but this angle was actually pretty good. Like, I felt it was kind of compelling.
You liked him
It's
when we
interesting.
did that Memphis watch. You liked him when like he broke Coco's TV and like the
Yeah,
Tommy
because he
Rich
was actually
angle
like
because he was just you said he was just like a loudmouth asshole.
he was loudmouth asshole heel, and it's like, this is actually interesting.
And he remember
Look,
he was dropping some bombs on Tommy Rich's mom because he's calling her like a fat old hag and stuff. And
but I like that. So again, like my dislike of Jimmy Valiant is because of the the dancing like happy-go-lucky babyface. I'm in a 100-year war against the Paul Jones Army. Jim Crockett Promotions mid to late 80s Jimmy Valiant, which at that point was like he was into his like late 40s. So it's like you're just
yeah,
you've done the major part of your career, so you're still a name.
yeah.
But I'm not a fan. But so when he breaks away from that mold, um, it is more
When he
interesting
dials
to
it
me.
down, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we get a recap of like all of the Moondogs mauling jobbers because this serves a purpose. I actually like how they
I
did this
actually like
recap.
this.
Yeah, that one
Actually,
guy
when
bled like a
when
stuck pig.
oh yeah. This was like a long montage
Yeah,
of the
so
Moondogs
so
beating the shit out of jobbers over the last few weeks.
because you're kind of like, why are they doing this again? But then Jeff Jarrett and Jerry Lawler come out for a promo. So they are
Mm,
having a gimmick match this week because it's going to be lumberjacks with chairs for this match.
mm.
So they bring out the lumberjacks, and it's all the jobbers that were in that
Yes.
montage just getting the crap kicked out of them.
When I saw that, I'm like, oh my god, I actually love this. Like because it did serve an look, wrestling is obviously a lot of times completely nonsensical, but this was like, oh my god, this is like perfect logic. Like you showed the Moondog, you spend like 10 minutes showing the Moondogs beating the shit out of guys, and then you have Jarrett and Lawler come out and be like, yeah, we're gonna have this lumberjack match, and oh, BT Dubs, our lumberjacks are all those guys that the Moondogs just spent their entire like the last few weeks beating the shit out of. And you see the guys coming out, and they got like chairs. They're ready to like, oh yeah, now the tables turn. And like,
The,
I think what one of them is even like, oh yeah, I can't wait till them to get thrown to the outside.
Yeah,
Like I'm ready. And they're like
they
holding,
shouldn't have
brandishing a chair.
they shouldn't have let that one guy talk though, because I think he might have been a little mentally challenged.
Yeah,
The first
it's like you're
guy.
not.
They
Yeah,
quickly got
you're.
the one that started talking. They quickly got the microphone away from him.
Yeah, it's like okay, it's clear why you guys are like prelim guys,
Well, the
but
one
okay.
guy, I thought the one guy was okay, but I really like the
Yeah,
way they set this angle up. It was well thought out. A good way for
yeah,
them to potentially get their comeuppance, and it kind of like I like that they tied that through and brought all those guys back. I thought that was a cool touch.
yeah.
Now the next one, I
Brad,
like, yeah,
Brad, I interject. At this point, because you've mentioned it, at this point it has to be internally. If I could go back, like I know, like which one died? Moondog's Spot. Maybe they're all dead,
yeah.
but like,
Larry Latham, whichever one he was, is the
okay.
one that died in the ring.
If I could go back in
Spot,
time,
it's Spot, yeah, he's
like
Spot.
it has to be, it has to have been a rib, because especially seeing the montage of them beating up jobbers, and actually seeing them beat up jobbers right after this, and in the 314 show, every fucking jobber match that the Moondogs has, they throw the guys and they like turn over the desk, and it's like at this point, y'all have to. This is a rib. Like every match is like good. They give you Dave Brown and Corey Macklin. It's like we're totally gonna like
Yeah,
turn your desk the fuck over and start messing with the job, because it's every single one, and it's like at this point, like it's a rib. You're
yeah.
like you know what you're doing, and Dave Brown and Corey Macklin to be like, oh god, here they come, and like the desk gets overturned. At one point, I think Moondogs, it's Spot or Spike, whatever. They put the desk on the jobber, and they're just like standing on the desk, stopping on it.
Yeah, Larry Latham is Larry Latham's
Spot, I
Spot.
think.
Spot.
Okay.
So we also know him and have seen him because, so famously, if you don't know who Moondog Spot is, but you've seen the original Tupelo concession stand brawl, he is teaming with the Honky Tonk Man as Wayne Ferris.
Wayne Ferris,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that is, so you would know him from that because he has a great angle around that Tupelo concession stand brawl where they and oh, what's his name? Oh, I can't believe I can't think of his name. Danny Davis.
Mm.
The non-referee Danny Davis was their manager. And they'd like taken over the studio, and Honky Tonk Man was cutting this promo, which is a really famous one because he's telling like Lance Russell, like, why is your, you know why your nose is so big? Because you lie all the time. But there's this part of the show where Honky Tonk Man is just cutting this promo, and the camera, like, Larry Latham gets right up in the camera, and he's like flexing and making kissy faces at the camera while like Honky Tonk Man's like doing this whole promo. It's hilarious. But yeah, so it's Larry Latham. He was in the original Tupelo concession stand brawl. He, if you don't know, in I think 2003 he died of a heart attack in the middle of the ring at a show.
I did know that, yeah.
Okay, so then Jimmy Valiant comes back out, and pretty much he calls Brian Christopher a punk. He's kind of just like, yeah, I was trying to be nice with you, but like you've kind of unleashed the beast, and I'm gonna beat the crap out of you. I like this promo too. I thought this was a good. Jimmy Valiant was really good on this show. Like, I'm not gonna lie.
No, yeah, he was. I had to rethink my Again, I'm not a fan of Jimmy Valiant in JCP, but outside of that, like he was like, you're actually pretty interesting.
Yeah. So then we get our weekly Richard Lee promo. Some jobbers are murdered, as always. Poor jobbers. So then we get Dr. Death comes out, wins his weekly match. We get this weird King Cobra promo that I'm a King Cobra fan, but this was a nonsensical promo because he pretty much has like Nurse Cratchit looks like a man, and he's bringing his aunt. Was it his aunt? His aunt, or was it his mom?
Yeah, it was aunt, but it said it was aunt, but I forget the name of aunt. What was her name? But
Yeah,
I didn't feel it really explained why. It's like so they clearly got some sort of woman to counteract Nurse Cratchit.
yeah.
But
He popped up Did he pop up in February once? Like, King Cobra's interesting because he like pops up for a week, does a match, and then disappears until they need him for a match again.
I think he had already won the title at that point, or not. Like he was kind of like a Memphis guy.
Yeah, he won the title in 90 or 91. He had won it briefly from Lawler. I think it was 91.
Yeah.
Okay, so then our weekly touch of Dennis Corluzzo racism.
Yeah.
And then we get a Lawler promo. This is kind of just it's kind of like a charity one. He's just kind of talking about some of like the community service stuff. Kind of a low key promo. And that's really it for this last show. There wasn't like, I don't know, this wasn't like, other than the Valiant stuff, this show was kind of a low key episode.
It was. They didn't really have like a match or whatever, but they did kind of
the Moondogs thing took up a lot of time.
It did. The ending of the show was the recap of like the Eric Embry Dirty White Girl incident. And then you had Dirty White Boy cut a promo, and we were kind of talking like Dirty White Boy is really underrated.
Yeah, because he's why I started talking about the promo thing, because I said like I think he's a good all around talent, but like if you were to say what would you rate his promos on that same scale of 1 to 10, 5 being like absolutely average, I'd say a 7 or a 7.5, and I'd be comfortable with that because he's really a talker. Like he's not quite Eric Embry, but like he's a really good talker.
He was. And his work was actually not that bad in ring.
No, he's really well rounded. Like he's like he's kind of like quintessential like Tom Pritchard is too. Like I don't think Tom Pritchard, like if you said what's Tom Pritchard as a promo, I'd say a 6.5. Like he's a little below, but both of them are like super well rounded, underappreciated like Carpenter type guys that just can do whatever you need them to do and they'll be good at it.
Yeah. We were talking earlier today offline that there's you can say that about a lot of guys in the business like are what ifs. Dirty White Boy, seeing some of his work here in USWA, and obviously he would go on from here to doing like Smoky Mountain, which is probably like his most notable work, but
Continental would be up there too, I think.
Yeah. But he's kind of a what if too, because I think like 95 to 97 he was in the WWF
TL Hopper.
TL Hopper, where he's gimmick as like a wrestling plumber, and then he had a really brief stint working with the Godwins as Uncle Cletus, which I don't even remember any of that. But
he might be more well known if we're talking generally, like because he teamed with Len Denton as the Grapplers for a long time too.
I don't remember that.
That's more of an 80s deal.
But it's unfortunate because he was in the WWE from 95 to 97. And it's like, if that's a dude that if he were in like ECW, like he would have been like
way more
iconic in a sense. Oh yeah, he would have been like noted. Like he's still alive. He's in his 60s now, but he could probably do like the convention circus. Like, oh, like
I was in the full-blooded Italians.
Yeah, he would have been like my name is Anthony. That's Italian. It's like he could have had like a run, like, and he actually would have been probably.
Oh man, that would have been good. That makes me sad. Like him and Tommy Rich, like in we missed out on some stuff.
Yeah, because he was actually a pretty decent worker. Was he like?
He's above average.
He wasn't top level. Like he's not gonna have. If you're looking at it, assuming like let's say put him in ECW, is he gonna be like Rob Van Dam or Jerry Lynn? Like no.
No, but if you like when he's in Smoky Mountain, like he was a main eventer and the matches were good.
Yeah.
Like you could he's probably with the right talent. If you had him as like a main event guy, he could probably reliably give you like a 3 to 3.5 star match most nights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was pretty good promo. That his chain match with Tracy Smothers, I think was 4-ish stars. And he does have my favorite. Like I do love that same show where he did they're in Central Park and he pulls out like the big old gun because of the of the muggers, and they're just in some guy's backyard in like Kentucky. And when he's like breaking all this stuff and he's like breaking the melon because Tracy Smothers has a melon head, or he's breaking the beer bottles because Tracy Smothers is drunk. Oh, that was really funny. But yeah, I'd say like I wouldn't say he's not like an elite level worker, but I think he's a guy that if he's your main event guy, he's gonna put in good work for you in the ring. Like he's gonna give you stable output of work, which I think is fine. And especially in that era, like he is more than fine.
Yeah.
Like he's good enough. He's good enough like that if you put him in a work rate promotion, he'd be fine. Like he wouldn't be your best guy, but he could hang in a work rate promotion. Mm-hmm. And he wouldn't look like he wouldn't look out of place. Like you could see him in those like work ratey lower card matches in WCW with like Malenko or like Benoit and stuff, and I think he'd be fine.
I agree.
I'm looking forward to him being back on the shows though, because this last couple of sets has been interesting because it had to have been frustrating at the time because you can tell they're trying to get some new faces in there and it's just not, they're just striking out. Because like they brought the young gun in, didn't work. The Fat Boys didn't work.
No.
Dr. Death, which is kind of working. I wouldn't say it's working well. Let's see.
It's not working well, but watching his matches with jobbers in because he had 2 different matches with jobbers in this. I actually we found out his real name, but
he jobbed in big time promotions. So
yeah, he wasn't terrible. Like I'm watching his match with the jobbers, and it's like he's actually somewhat competent. Like I don't know how much I would actually have pushed him, but I mean,
he's technically he was fine.
He's fine.
Yeah.
Like
he wasn't embarrassed. He's not like young gun. He's fine.
No. Like you talked about it before, but like someone like PN News in WCW was not a good worker, but he also was very competent. Like he knew where to be in the ring. Like he could, have
I think
he could sell decently. Like he was fine. He wasn't great, but it's like I don't even know if I put him on the level of PN News, but
I think we determined
he was fine.
PN News that he needed to lose some weight is what his primary issue was.
Yeah.
But like his positioning was fine. Like this guy comes across like a career jobber who has like the basics and stuff, but he's never been put in a position to really develop an offense.
Yeah.
Because he has like a very basic offense. It's fine. Like I said, he's fine. He's fine. Like there's nothing. He's not spectacular in the ring. He's not actively bad. He doesn't blow his spots. He seems safe. He's fine.
Yeah. But yeah, you're not going to put like the world title on Dr. Death.
I think he gets the Southern title at some point, or he has had the Southern title by this point.
Yes. Yeah, but he's also not the businesses. Your local business isn't going to light on fire.
No,
because Dr. Death and didn't historically because
they really haven't done much with Nurse Cratchit. I wonder why.
She apparently on some of these like Monday night shows that they do that aren't televised, but
yeah,
that's actually like the big shows that they build towards.
And
she had a couple matches,
and it's been sprinkled. It's been sprinkled through like Lauren Davenport, who we talked about previously. You've been watching matches. She has been mentioned on these shows and has appeared on screen a bit, but that's it. She hasn't like cut another promo or anything. So she is like a mentioned presence, but she hasn't done anything. She's just kind of observing, and they know her name now.
Yeah,
I think Lawler might have ripped on her in the first set of promos.
I think on the second one he did.
Okay.
Because like that's towards like the very end of the second show, he talks about her. He mentions her by name.
Yeah, I think she wins.
I don't know why she's here.
I think she wins the women's title at some point. I was sad. There was no Miss Texas on these shows, which she's always a highlight
No.
when she's on, and I was sad to not see her these weeks. So we have one more show for March, and we'll be through the first fourth of the year. So I think through 3 months, it's been the TV's had its ups and downs. I feel like March has been a little down for me, other than some bits here and there. But generally, I think the TV's an easy watch and fun most weeks. Even though I think like the last couple weeks have been a little down. What have you thought so far?
I would agree. It is an easy watch. Even the stuff that it's like I'm not feeling or like doesn't hit, it's still like inoffensive. And I just love seeing like at this point it's like a time capsule, but I love seeing like I look back in time to see like how, like a smaller promotion was booked and the context of like the early 90s and everything like that. And just it is also fun, even like stuff like we just talked about Dr. Death. It's like even stuff that it's like, nah, this isn't really landing, but it's like also like I appreciate what you're trying to do. Um, so I mean, well, I say that, and at the same time, like the whole Young Gun Mike Mitchell stuff. It's like
Yeah,
what was this? Like he didn't have like a good jobber mash, but whatever. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it so far. It's been fun.
yeah, I think so. I'm looking forward to see how the rest of the year shapes up.
Mm.
But that is it for this week, everyone. Thank you for joining us always. Just a reminder, we're not here next week, but the week after, we should be here in full force. So
Mm.
we will see you in 2 weeks. Thank you for joining us as always, and we will catch you next